Hey, this is Chuck Billy from Testament, and I'll see you at the Tampa Morgue.
What's up? This is Tony, and you're listening to the Tampa Morgue Season 3, Episode 128. And from his studio deep in the bowels of Tampa Bay, Florida, Mr. Ed Webb. What's up, Webb?
Mr. Anderson, what's going on, brother?
Back in the Baltics, man. Episode 128, and looking forward to this one. And it should be a fun show tonight. We opened up the show with Testament Over the Wall from the Legacy album that came out on Megaforce Records, April 21st, 1987. And we'll be joined very soon in about 25 minutes by the legendary Chuck Billy, frontman of Testament. And speaking of legends, we are opening up the show with another Tampa legend. Mr. Nasty Ronnie's hanging out for the beginning of the show with us. What is up, Ronnie?
Oh, man, it's always good to be here. In the morgue. It's kind of cool in here and kind of quiet, you know. It's cold like the morgue, man. It's like the fear of evil lurks around, and it's crazy. But no, it's always good to be here with you guys. It was great to see you at the Heavy Metal Museum that, Death Metal Dave put on. What a great event that was, and the passion that everybody shows, man, and Death Metal Dave is the passion that he shows, but when you walked in there, you can feel the power of all those killer banners that were hanging up from all the bands, and they're like battle flags, man, because they're, like, set up behind the band when they go in I don't wanna say battle, but when they go into battle, when they play their sets and give it all they have, and when you looked at banner after banner, it just equated to thousands and hundreds of shows, man. It was crazy, and sets, and blood, sweat, and tears, man. It was historic, and it's just really cool, and, it was all good, man. It was just all good.
Yeah, it was great, man. I mean, it had a blast, and like you said, our table was we had the Tampa Morgue slash Generic Christ table right next to Nasty Ronnie, and then we had Gene from Perdition Temple on the other side, and I felt like, Ronnie, didn't you kinda get that vibe that it was definitely an organized event, but it was more like a hangout and like a reunion of a bunch of people that have not seen each other in a long time, and you were busy the whole time. I was sitting next to you, me and you were talking, hanging out, but man, you were one of the highlights of that for the people, man, coming to the show that day.
But it just meant a lot to come out and share some great times with some great people, man, and then when I looked around and just saw, the people who were there supporting it and the passion in the room, man, I was in awe of the guys, Kelly, Atheist, everybody was there, Ed was there.
Steve
I
from
mean
Deicide, I mean,
yeah, yeah, and, I saw Glenn Benton the other day at Webster Flea Market because he's out looking for daggers again, and he did say he's gonna get back with you, so you gotta stay on because he has to be in the morgue, man. He's gotta feel the chill, the coldness of the cold slab room, but, the whole thing was so awesome, and Glenn even said, "Yeah, man, I heard it was really good," and I said, "I saw your banners there that the fans gave you from the South American places and countries where you went," and matter of fact, the Nasty Savage banner was from fans gave it to us from Chile. And it's an honor to have that flag there, and one dude actually was from Chile, a metalhead, and he was floored because he saw that, man. It made me feel so good. But I was in awe of the people, man, that everybody, you guys coming together and everything everybody does to keep this scene going, and then a guy like Death Metal Dave and his whole crew and the passion for it, and vendors outside and, inside a brewery, the cool chrome style brewery, but man, there was a who's who of hard work and metal, and the future of metal were there too, man. It was really cool to be there. I was honored.
Yeah, definitely, man, and I haven't and it's if it happens, we're gonna do a big thanks to Ronnie, but I have been texting back and forth with Glenn. Hopefully, we get Benton on here. It's definitely one of our bucket list guests. And again, you're right, Ronnie. What was it? It was Dave Allison, Joe Tolley, Tim Hubbard, Robin Mason. I mean, they really did a great job with this. If I'm forgetting anybody else, I know Daniel Lee was involved, but it was a great event, man. We also, speaking of Nasty Savage, you had the Beeson drum kit there, right? You had Dave Austin was in attendance. I mean, it was just Ed. It was a great
Bateman's
time, right?
Richard Bateman's bass was there too.
Yeah, Richard Bateman's bass. I mean, it was a great couple days.
Yeah, everything kind of was a blur, it kinda like you said, it was pretty active, pretty busy, and I really didn't take the time to look at everything that was set up behind us and from the drum set to Richard's bass. I mean, to Curtis's jacket, Curtis Beeson his mom, his sister, and Sanford came up, and we shared a moment, but I didn't take an extra moment to say, "Hey, man, let's get together with this jacket and get a photo and really tribute Curtis," or it just went by so fast, and Dave just did a great job on everything, but when you look back and you see Richard Bateman's bass, I mean, what a monster bass player. What a big part of Tampa Bay metal he was. And we honored him, but probably didn't honor him enough. Same thing with Curtis and the drums, but his jacket and God, those times, man, that we spent on the road together. And that's why we got to make the most of our lives, brothers, while we have it, and spread kindness, believe it or not. We have to spread kindness I was in awe of everybody around me, and I was respected. I mean, I respected every one of them because of the hard work. Mike Browning, just it goes on, man, the list. And what I really dug was the new energy of these new guys and these new podcasters and media people who are supporting heavy metal and want to know more about it with their families, their kids, their wives. It was really just a good time.
Yeah, definitely, man. And again, it was great to see you. I know me and Ed had a blast. It flew by, like you said, and and I was talking to you at the event. We were hanging out, and we had a discussion about a couple things. I want to bring actually one of them up tonight. Before we get into this, I'm going to basically bring up the label you'll be working with and the whole thing you're part of coming up. So again, we did open up the show with Testament, Over the Wall. So Ronnie, that came out on Megaforce. I was wondering actually, did you have any run-ins with Johnny Z through your time?
Uh, you know, um, Johnny Z, um, the worst one I had running with him is we really screwed up when we were playing New York one of the first times. Our bus broke down and we played CBGB's in Lemoore. And then we were supposed to do a record in-store appearance at his record store, and we didn't show up, man. And I think it really pissed him off. And I think right then, he blackballed us.
Oh, I think we discussed that. Yeah, and anybody who
Yeah.
doesn't know, Ronnie was on here on episode 114. I think that was like about a 3-hour episode. We went through all the Nasty Savage history
Uh,
and all Ronnie's history. He hung out with us for that night, which we really appreciate. And I mentioned Megaforce Records, but Ronnie, you have something going on now, that I wanna talk to you about tonight. And,
yeah, man.
yeah, so go ahead, man. The floor is yours here.
Well, I mean, there's a company called Cranked Up Records, and they're really up and coming. They have Virgin distribution worldwide, and they're hooked up with a killer studio in LA with some high end guys that work with some big bands, including Guns N' Roses and Academy Award or some kind of Grammy Award winning guys that are editors and engineers. So it's a cool studio there, and then we have one in New Mexico, right by Area 51, where the aliens are, back there, Area 51. So I think that's kind of cool. The dude has a national talk radio show and also recording studio, and they're doing movies starting to work with. Anyway, I was talking to him, and he does these big biker rallies. So that was my connection. We've been friends for a while. I said, dude, he's been watching Nasty Savage do our thing, and I've been watching that. I said, "You know what? You should start a metal division, bro." I said, "I'd be interested." He goes, "Man, that would be so great." Just yesterday, they put out a press release worldwide about Cranked Up Records metal division. So my plan is, um, like Metal Massacre, I mean, we were the first wave with Sabotage, and then, the second wave was just blistered and took off, Obituary, Deicide, and everybody else, Death, and everybody. Ed, you guys, Atheist, everybody came out. But now, where's the third wave? And that's what I'm saying. I'm getting old, so I'd like to do something else and maybe management and whatever and legacy wise, what can I leave behind besides everything, all the blood, sweat, and the tears that I put into it? Meet and greet and made a lot of friends and spread a lot of kindness and doing the right thing. So, in a business way, I would like to, what I'm planning to do, and with their blessing for sure already, is I want to find 10 bands and do our own Metal Massacre, like a Cranked Up Records metal division sampler, whatever you want to call it, and get it out. I wanna see what bands wanna get out of Tampa, what, wanna get out of the Brass Mug. We did it on a demo tape and toured Texas. We put gas in the tank and said, "Let's go." And it happened, and you gotta work hard for anything in life, you guys know that, but do these bands know it? They're gonna just get something dropped on their lap. Is it all the internet and, social media gonna flutter right in and make them a household name? You still gotta do old school stuff, so I wanna get 10 bands, I'm gonna put them on a compilation and working out all the details, and one of them's gonna get $1 million record contract. Did I say $1 million?
God damn.
I was bullshitting about that.
Gonna say, I had to start the band
But
up again.
did I get your attention, brother?
Ah.
But you never know. I just wanna create the next the next wave if we can. We wanna do more than a ruffle, we wanna create a tsunami or some shit, and I think they're there, and man, I've been getting a lot of help from a lot of people already. Man, it's exciting, and there's a lot of great talent. Um, the Tampa Bay metal scene guys have been sending me countless, bands with the EKP, what do you call it? The whole package thing? I used to call it a press kit,
Yeah, press
so
kit. That's what. Yeah,
I
same
used to
here.
get a bunch what is it called?
I call it a press kit too, but I'm old, so
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know.
So anyway, I've been getting it, man, and there's some life here, brother. There's some passion. And I mean, and they're young. Want to get some young guys like we were 18 and 19. Get out on the road, man, and work your ass off and
Yeah.
see if you've got what it fucking takes. Because that's what you have to do, and damn it, when I find that band, they're gonna get signed, and I'm gonna be like Colonel Parker or some shit, but, talking to the record company, they're very interested, they're very excited, and we have a lot of meetings and stuff to still do, but financially, they're set pretty good, but everybody's gonna have to work and put forth an effort, and, the best ones who put forth the effort, the compilation comes out, who's gonna sell the most of the ones we give them, who's gonna get the most likes, the hits, whatever social media following, they're gonna prove themselves, and then we're gonna put together a couple of nice shows to showcase the bands on it. We're not gonna have a show to see who gets on it. We're gonna pick who gets on it, and then we're gonna highlight these bands, and the promotion machine is gonna begin because I'm gonna rent out a hotel lobby or something, or a hotel, a meeting room, and we're gonna talk about marketing. We're gonna talk about business. We're gonna be talking about being professional, how to stay alive, how to come back alive from a tour, how to respect, be on time, and you take care of business, show
How not to
up.
kill each other
Don't
on tour.
yeah, yeah, and how not to miss a record appearance at Johnny Z's place. We learned a lot of shit, man. You know, just so it should be exciting, and I really appreciate you guys having the time, giving me the time today to talk about it. And you got Chuck Billy coming out, and a legend, man, a great one of the good guys in heavy metal. A stellar guy that's been around and has stayed around because they're good people and he's a good man and they have played great music. So it's an honor to be here today, man.
Have you had any run-ins with Chuck through your past, man?
You know, I met him a long time ago. I think they played here in Tampa. Oh God, it was a long time ago off Dale Mabry at somewhere at a hotel or something. And I briefly met him there. And some of my guys got pictures of him holding Born to Ride magazine back in the day.
Oh, he was a
So
biker, yeah, he was a rider.
other than that, I really haven't had a lot of time with him, but man, I just know how great of a person he is and how he's well represented without drama or anything. I've ever heard anything but good things about him and, Testament and, they're great musicians and they've just held up their part of the deal and everything they do. So it's so cool to be part of this show today with that. But anybody out there, if you guys could direct me to something, because once we do, I talked yesterday to the guy, they just did that press release. And after my plan is after we do the one from Florida, because he's going, man, I'm getting shit from all over the country now. And I go, dude, Florida is where it happened for me. Florida is where it happened for the metal world. I mean, after that first wave, besides the death metal bands, Creator, Destruction, Agent Steel, Sepultura, all these bands came here to record. There was a reason. There was a reason it all happened, and that's why I'm not gonna go all around the country with this first. I told them, "We're gonna do Tampa Bay, Florida. I want those bands first, and we'll do another one, whatever, but I have to do this first because that's my plan."
That's awesome, man. And, anybody who's listening, where would you send anybody who wants to contact you, or is there a place you would send people, um, with the Cranked Up Records in relation to that?
I do have an email for Cranked Up Records. I just got it, and I can't think what it is. I'm easy to get a hold of. Ron Galletti on social media, Nasty Savage. Just type that in, and you could get to it. But or right here, let's take it right here through you guys. Let's bring it to the morgue. Let's let the morgue be a part of this, man. I wanna open that casket and hear it squeaking when the morgue opens up and says, "Ron, we got a few bands for you to check out, brother," because I know you and Ed know what's going on, man. That's why I'm here today, because you guys are probably one of the hottest podcasts out there in metal, and, I think you guys could serve me up some stuff, so have them go through you guys if you want, man, and then dish them up to me. If they pass if they pass your test, then I'll move it to the next division.
And Ronnie, there's one thing before I let you go tonight, again, we appreciate you hanging out, man, and we'll talk to you off of the show too. But I had a question from Dylan actually not too long ago from Head Split Records that I just want to ask you because he's looking for a lost commercial. The sword shop in the mall. You remember the sword and leather shop?
Oh, yeah, the Shalimar.
Shalimar. Do you have any idea where this commercial could be found? Because this is like the lost commercial. We have the hair place commercial that you guys did the ad for, but how about this? Is there any way to find this, you think?
First off, Dylan is a real deal motherfucker, man. I love that dude because he's so old school as a young man. He's got old school blood in his body, and his fanzine is fucking just it's a real deal fanzine from, like, the '80s throwback and shit. I've worked with him on some projects. He re-released the demo tape on cassette, and he's just one of the real dudes in the metal community, down to earth, but hardcore as hell, and he's a smart dude too, and, for him to even think about the Shalimar and try to find it, I've searched and searched, and it might be on a VHS tape somewhere, but I don't have a VHS player to scroll through, to buzz through it, and there's nowhere. I've Googled it, I've searched it. David Austin has looked around. We can't find the Shalimar commercial. But a quick story about that is it came on right when MTV started. MTV just came on the air, and this guy was running that commercial probably 20 times a day, and it was right when Nasty Savage busted out, so it was just another great marketing opportunity we had at the right time that helped propel us. I still get people to say, "I remember that damn shallow." I swear to God, people still say that. They don't say that even about the hair care like they remember the Shalimar because, man, that Shalimar ran, like I said, 20 times a day for probably a couple of months straight.
So if
It
anybody has
was
the Shalimar commercial, contact us. It
yeah,
is a
man,
desired piece of history. So,
we'd love to
you know,
see that.
You'll get a
yeah.
$10 trillion recording contract if you come up with that one.
Yeah, man,
Exactly.
we might bring out the millie on that one.
Well, man, Ronnie, again, dude, we wanna thank you for hanging out with us, man, and coming to, promote Cranked Up Records. And before we let you go, man, any new Nasty Savage updates you wanna plug or anything scheduled coming up?
Yeah, we're talking about new music and to write one more album, and we're trying to find out what record label we're gonna be on. Working with a record company who, re-releasing the first album, re-releasing Indulgence, and also Abstract Reality. They're gonna be a really good set there, and it's, Skull I forget the damn name of it, but, they're re-releasing it, and we're talking to them right now about re-releasing, Psycho Psycho and Wage of Mayhem CD that we put out EP that we put out. So that's pretty exciting there, and it's gonna bring we have to stay relevant. When you're old school and, what we are, we need to stay relevant, so, that's gonna keep our name out there, and then we're kinda negotiating here and there for a new album. We're talking with Frank from FHM, and even, Cranked Up wants to do it, and maybe these other guys wanna do it too, so, just I'm trying to get the guys focused and, just trying to plan something more. We have a couple of shows coming up in Bulgaria and Zurich, Switzerland, and then we're playing the Tampa Death Fest, in what is that, August, I believe it is.
I believe it is
So
August, yeah.
we do have 3 shows coming up, and other than that, nothing real soon. So, I just still wanna create some more music, create some more lyrics, some of those create those stories that I like to tell in the with the beats of the music and the rhythms, because the rhythm will set you free, and, that's what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get the rhythm to set me free. Let
Hell
the
yeah.
rhythm set me free. It is cold in here, man. You guys got this morgue really cold today. Man,
It's the way we like it, and,
it's kinda scary, man. I mean, there's some cold slab. It's a cold slab room, man.
it's awesome.
Wow.
Yes,
Shit.
it is, man, and again,
Brrr.
Ronnie, we appreciate you, man, and again, we'll keep everybody updated on anything up with new with Nasty Savage. Ronnie will be back on here again, man, and, Ronnie, anything you wanna say before we're gonna play some Testament here in a second before we get Chuck on. Was there anything you wanna say on your way out?
Man, just wanna say thank you guys for everything you're doing, the continued, did you say you're back in the Baltics, man?
Yeah, I am.
That's heav
It's actually -1 right now where I'm at.
that's heavy duty in itself, man. I just respect the hell out of what you guys are doing, your body of work, your continued support to heavy metal and the bands who play it. That's just genuine as hell, man, and it doesn't get any better than that, so I'm looking forward to the morgue to help me be a part of this, Cranked Up Records, and really let's take Tampa Bay, let's take Florida to another level again with the next wave. I'm really counting on the morgue to help that, and I really appreciate it. Guys, send your info to the morgue, and they'll forward it on up.
Definitely, definitely. And, so what we're gonna do, Ronnie, is we appreciate you. We'll say goodbye to you here in a second, but for everybody else, we're gonna do what we usually do on the show. We're gonna do deaths, releases, we're gonna talk about a couple shows, then we're gonna get Chuck Billy on from Testament. Before that, we're gonna play the Circle Studios promo, then we're gonna play Testament Into the Pit from the New Order record that came out on Megaforce Records May 10th, 1998. And again, Ronnie, man, we appreciate you, and we'll talk to you very soon.
Thank you guys. Stay safe out there. Ride safe, ride smart, drive safe, survive.
That's right, and everybody
Oh,
else, this
yeah.
is Testament with Into the Pit, and we'll be back with me and Ed Webb after this track on the
Into
Tampa
the
Morgue.
pit.
Hello, Tampa Bay Morgue listeners. This is Joe from Circle Rehearsal Studio, Tampa Bay's rehearsal giant with 33 years of service. We know what you need to rock. Large, clean, quiet, cool, smoke-free, isolated rooms with the best gear at a musician-friendly price of $25 an hour. Professional, courteous, easygoing environment. Recently upgraded and remodeled with top quality gear: Marshall, Ampeg, Pearl, Tampa, JBL, Yamaha, PBB, and more. We have the experience and the gear to provide you with the best possible rehearsal experience at the best price. Just completed and soon to open Circle's demo studio for your recording needs. From laying down drum tracks to complete projects, we have you covered at a musician-friendly price. Also in the work is the pro rehearsal room, specially appointed and stocked with the best gear at nicely competitive rates. Our contact number is 727-546-8930. Our address is 10841 75th Street, Seminole, Florida, 33777. We have 7 large rehearsal rooms. Looking forward to seeing you soon. Thanks.
And we are back on the Tampa Morgue. And before that Circle Studios promo, you heard Into the Pit from Testament. In a few minutes, we'll be joined by the legendary frontman Chuck Billy. If you are new to the Tampa Morgue, we appreciate you checking out the show. You can find 127 previous episodes and interviews wherever you stream your podcasts. You can also contact us at thetampamorgue@gmail.com, or you can send us a message on the Instagram page. The Instagram page is also the best place to keep up with current guests and just show information in general. And again, if you are new, there's a bunch of past interviews you can go check out. We had Chris Volcano on here from Abominator, Ex-Destroyer 666, Cemetery Urn, Denouncement Pyre. We had Hannah on from Osagram, Blaine Cook from The Accused, Accused AD, Chris Reifert from Autopsy, Abscess, Eat My Fuck, and Violation Wound. Sadistic Fornicator and Bassist the One of UK's Necromaniac. Definitely recommend that band if you haven't checked them out. Killer band. W. Horror Preacher of Finland's Vomit Angel. We had Noella of Hexea out of Texas on the show. We had Antion of Cadaveric Incubator, Satanic War Master, who's also a member of Slugother and Torso Fuck at one time. Tony Thomas of Witch Vomit and Torture Rack. We had Kev Desecrator on the show of Destroyer 666, Sepulchre, Venefiction, and Profanation. Atax and Scum from the German black metal band Pest. It was their first audio interview ever in 27 years. Yuha of Death Chain, Chamber of Unlight, Warm Moon Lord, and Barathrum. We had Yano on from Anal Vomit out of Peru. You'll also find interviews with Sergeant Salston of Deathhammer, Infernal and Odin of Disaster were on the show, Daniel Avenger from Nocturnal, Angelo of Damnation, and Black Priest of Satan. We had the guys from Morbid Sane on here, Dave from Mortis Scold, Lee Payne from Club and Hoof, Gene from Angel Corpse, Perdition Temple, Malefic Throne, Henry from God Dethroned, Witch Trap out of Columbia, Tony Dolan from Venom and Venom Inc., John Walker of Cancer, Ed Miller of Negative Plane, Ritual Butcher of Finland's Arc Goat, Jeff Manis of Venom was on here for 5 hours one night. King Fally of Deceased on October 31, Eric from Goat Seaman out of Peru, Terry Butler of Obituary Death, Massacre, Denial Fiend, Luciferian Rights out of Mexico, Nige Rocket from Onslaught, Paul Speckman from Master, Pat from Hell Witch was on here, Harry Quokinen from Hooded Menace and Hail Conjurer, Morgul out of Finland were on here, Dawn of the Dead from Nunslaughter, Adam of Cardiac Arrest, Lord Sabathan from Morbid Death, Slaughter Messiah, and Enthroned, John Berry from Ancient Rites and Slaughter Messiah, Revik from Mordant Red, Bobby G from Overkill. We had Luisma on from Hemorrhage. We had Rob from Lucifericon and Ex-Destroyer 666 on here, Martin Missy from Protector, Glenn Destructor from Australia's Destructor, Udo from Accept, Carl Kennedy from The Rods, Kyle Thomas from X-Hoarder, Snowy Shaw from King Diamond, Merciful Fate, and Notre Dame, Magnus from Aberration out of Norway. Speaking of Norway, we had Heimland on the show. And for all of you Monstrosity fans, we had Lee Harrison on for 2 episodes. Very, very in-depth interview, the history of Monstrosity and just Lee's history in general. And that's just some of the interviews you're going to find. You can find many more wherever you stream your podcasts. But yeah, we appreciate you checking us out tonight. And what we're going to do next is something we always do. We'd like to pay a little respect to the musicians who passed away this week. I'm going to start out with Martin Carlson, the Swedish guitarist for the Gothenburg thrash metal band Pagan Doom. He passed away at the age of 57 years old. And next I'm going to mention Donovan Odendahl, a South American vocalist for the death metal band Bleeding Spawn. And last, Roshan Gupta, guitarist, bassist, vocalist for the death metal band Climate of Despair. He passed away at the age of 24. And now I'm going to mention the releases, then we'll get to shows, and then we'll get to our guest, Chuck Billy. I'm going to start out with Death Feeder. It's an Australian death metal band. They're releasing an EP titled Unleashing Ruin. It's going to be an independent release. Feeder formed in 2021, released a single in 2021 and 2022. This EP will have 4 songs. Death Feeder features members past and present of Manticore, The Loom of Time, Requiem of the Damned, and Beneath the Dying Moon. Unleashing Ruin came out on February 23rd. Next, Rotten Soil, German death metal band. They're releasing an album called I Worship Death. It's an independent release. Rotten Soil formed in 2020, put out a single in 2020 also. They also put out their debut album, From Beyond the Grave, in 2022, came out on CD and 12-inch. Rotten Soil features members of Black Damnation, Massacre the Wasteland, Crucifixation, and Basement 9. I Worship Death has 11 tracks and will be released on February 26th. And let's move on to Internal Decay, Swedish death metal band putting out an EP titled Fires of the Forgotten on Hammerheart Records out of the Netherlands. Internal Decay formed in 1991. 3 of the members are from the 91 lineup that are still in the band. Fires of the Forgotten EP has 3 tracks. It'll be out February 27th on Hammerheart. Next, we have Signs of the Evil. It's a Peruvian black metal band. They're putting out an album called Calling the Ancient Legions Under the Red Moon. It's coming out on Infernal Art Productions. Signs of the Evil formed in 2002, put out a self-titled demo in 2005. In total, the band has released 2 demos, 2 splits, and this will be the band's second full length. It has 12 tracks. It'll be out March 2nd. Last, I'm going to mention the Romanian black death metal band Chaos Insignia. They're putting out an album called Crown of the Infernal Code. Independent release. Chaos Insignia formed in 2024, put out a demo titled Pre-Code Rituals in 2024, and a 5-song EP in 2025. Band also features members of Mortuary Dripping, Putrid Storm, Halo Pus, and Insanity Defecation. Crown of the Infernal Code will have 10 tracks and be available March 5th. And Ed, I only have a few shows that I'm going to mention. And man, it's been a busy show already tonight. It was cool to have Nasty Ronnie jump on for a little bit. We got Chuck Billy here in about 5 minutes. So I'm going to mention a few shows that are going to be going on in the area and 2 future shows that I'm going to mention just because, we'll mention them throughout the next couple of months. But kind of me and Ed were talking about one earlier that I'm going to mention. But first thing I will talk about is Barf 11, which Ed played Barf last year, Barf 10. This is going on March 13th and 14th at Side Yard Studios, which is 4502 Hill Drive, El Rico, Florida. Ed, and the bands that are playing, like I might be missing a few, let me know. Leather Nun, Void, Siren, Druid Lord, Dark Ritual, Medieval Steel,
Syndicate,
Argus, Midnight Vice, Precipice, Grave Rot, the Casket Kids, Slow Rot. Anybody else I'm forgetting there?
Yeah, the old school thrash band Atrophy is playing as well.
There you go. Missing that one. So you can get your tickets at eventbrite.com. And that again is March 13th and 14th. And March 19th, anybody in the Gainesville area, Obituary, Intoxicated, Damage Done, and Verlins at the Woolly in Gainesville, Florida. And 2 shows I want to mention that are upcoming, but it's not till May. Both of the shows are in May, actually. They just announced Death Angel, Violence, and Incite out of Phoenix. They're doing the Act 3 tour for Death Angel. They're playing the full Act 3 record plus some other stuff from their catalog. And that's May 28th in Orlando at the Abbey, May 29th in Fort Lauderdale at the Culture Room, and then May 30th in Tampa at the Orpheum, which I'm sure Ed's going to be at that event. But yeah, that's going on. And then Napalm Death and Dead Guy are playing at the Orpheum May 8th, which again, we'll mention these shows again, but I figured I would give them a little shout out here. Ed, you'll be at the Death Angel show, I'm sure.
100%. Every time they come through, I see them. We played with them a couple times. They put on a great show. I love Death Angel.
Yeah, I remember you guys played with them at the Brass Mug, the original Brass Mug 1.
Yes.
For anybody who doesn't know, there's 3 of these. But Brass Mug 1, which was a killer show with Destined to Ruin, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it was great.
A great show. But those are the shows we're going to mention. And, we're going to get Chuck Billy on from Testament now, which again, Ed, I know both of us grew up listening to Testament.
Yeah. You always hear about people and, how they are as not just musicians, but behind the scenes, how they are as actual human beings and people. And I've never heard a bad thing about Chuck ever. Like, I've only heard that he's just such a down to earth, salt of the earth kind of guy. So yeah, I'm excited, man, because I've been a huge Testament fan, saw them in the early days, watched them on public access TV. when they, the over the wall video came out. So I've been hooked since day one. And when the new record came out, I was all over it. Love it. And yeah, I'm excited to talk to Chuck for sure. It's going to be great.
Yeah. We're going to talk to him about some history of the band, obviously his history, and of course the new record, Bellum. And I do want to mention upcoming guests. We have Satrus and commander of Lithuanian black death metal band Luctus coming on here in about 2 weeks. Then we have Brian Kaz. He's the guitarist of the grindcore band Melting Rot out of Illinois. He'll be on here in about 2 weeks. Anybody who is asking, we do have some shirts left. We do ship to the States and we do ship through Europe. So contact us for that. It's $25 a shirt plus shipping. You can contact us at thetampamorgue@gmail.com or through the Instagram page. The Instagram page, as we always say, is the best place to contact us or keep up to date with upcoming guests and all that good stuff. And let's get Chuck Billy on here, Ed. We're going to play some Testament, Greenhouse Effect while we're getting him set up off the Practice What You Preach record that came out on Megaforce/Atlantic, August 8th, 1989. And when we come back, we'll be joined by Chuck Billy of Testament. We'll be back on the Tampa Morgue after this track with Chuck Billy.
What's up, guys? This is Ed from the Morgue. And if you're like Tony and I and dedicated to working out, and you're from Tampa or will be visiting Tampa, I'm going to let you in on the best kept secret gym in the area. Tampa Family Fitness on the corner of Bears and Florida Avenue. And unlike the big box gyms where you're just a name and a number, the owners Sarah and Eddie Amaral have created a community where you're not just another face lost in the crowd. They also have, hands down, the best trainers in Tampa, with Coach J, Jarrett Perea, who I've personally witnessed take his clients to award-winning bodybuilders. Not to mention this dude is an absolute beast himself. So if you want to get in the best shape of your life, this is definitely the place to do it, and these are the people to do it with. So if you want a no-frills gym experience that I can only describe as old-school Arnold Schwarzenegger on Venice Beach with no fancy machines, just get in, get your ass kicked, get a crushing workout, then you want to go to Tampa Family Fitness at 14968 North Florida Avenue. And if you're a band that's traveling to Tampa and playing the Orpheum or the Brass Mug, this is literally less than a 5-minute drive from either location. There's a QR code on the door. Just scan it, pay $10, and you're good to go for the whole day. Or if you're in Tampa and you want to see what all the hype's about, stop in and get a day pass. And make sure you tell them Ed sent you from the Tampa Morgue.
We can't stay no more. Well, these people see
that was Testament with Greenhouse Effect from Practice What You Preach. That came out in 1989, and we are joined by the legendary frontman of the band, Chuck. How you doing, man?
I'm doing well, man. How you guys doing?
Doing great. Me and Ed will tell you, man, it's great to have you on the show, right, Webb?
Absolutely.
Good to be
Absolutely.
here, man. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, man, and we're looking forward to talk about some of your history with you tonight. And I will say, when your latest record came out, man, Ed was all over that, right, Ed? I mean,
Yeah.
from the moment it came out, Parabellum, Ed has been preaching it.
Yeah, I've been a fan. When I hate to say I'm old now. I
We all
remember
are.
I remember when you guys toured for the New Order, you were supposed to be touring with Voivod and Violence. And for whatever reason, when you hit Florida, Voivod was not on the tour. And you guys had Atheist, a local band here, open up. That was the first time I really saw them as Atheist. They used to be called Ravage. But then when you guys came out, and Violence too, Violence just blew me
Yeah.
away. But then you guys, the show you put on, I was like, that was it. I was hooked forever. Um, so yeah,
Well,
ever
shit,
since that day.
we only had 10 songs then, or or no, 20 songs by then, the Legacy and the New Order. So
Yeah.
yeah, and really those two records, those were all about thrash. I mean, those we were young, playing Fast and Furious, back on those records, and those
But even the
tours.
stage show was just because it was like it was new. So the stage shows were just out of control. And then of course everybody was just learning what moshing and all that crap was. And it was great.
Well, it's
That's what
definitely
started me.
well, definitely that time, it's definitely a new early thing that generated thrash metal being played across the world, and people hearing about it in the Bay Area scene. So it's something to do with that. It doesn't hurt coming when you come through.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And, Chuck, again, we're looking forward to talk about your history with you, but I do want to start out like you guys have some stuff coming up, man. I know December of 2025, you guys announced that you guys are going to be doing a 2026 North American tour that'll be here actually before you know it. Starts March 14th in Portland at the Roseland Theater, wraps up April 10th in Berkeley, California at the UC Theater. You guys will be touring with Overkill and Destruction.
Yeah, it's gonna be awesome, man. We've been friends with both of those bands close to 40 years. Overkill was actually one of the first bands, 87, we went across the US with, for one of the very first tours. And so we got a lot of history with them. I got a lot more current history with Blitz, doing some Metal Legion stuff that we do whenever the last few years. And we just did the tour in Europe in October with Destruction. We haven't toured and seen them in a long time, and they got a great band and great record right now. So it's going to be a great hang, great thrash show. It's going to be like definitely, hopefully all us the old schools get out from under a rock, come out, check it out.
Yeah, and you guys, and for all those Florida listeners, you guys will be playing at Janus Landing in St. Pete on April 1st. Also, you guys are doing the European Festival Tour, summer 2026. You guys are doing select dates with Death Angel, Metal Church, Armored Saint, and Hellripper. You guys are doing festivals like Beyond the Gates, Alcatraz Fest, Dynamo, Summer Breeze, Bloodstock, and a bunch more, man. Are you excited for that one?
Yeah, we all are. Last year we took off Europe, that summer. So it's been a few years now. So we look forward to going back. We're actually doing 2 trips this year. We haven't did that yet in a long time. So we're going back twice. We're going the end of June, July, and then going back at the end of July into August. Um, I'm looking forward to it because those are always where you get to see all your friends, all the bands you want to see that you don't get to see on tour. You get to kind of check them out there. It's one big party, and usually the festivals, unless you're playing later in the night, you got 40 minutes, man. It's like, shit, that's it. I like I do 40-minute show, 8 songs. That's it, huh? All right. And the rest of the day you're drinking beer in the sun, you're done by, 6 o'clock. And so those have some advantages too to it.
And you've been doing this, what, 38, 39 years, man. Do you still enjoy it like you did back when you were younger?
Well, yeah, I mean, still my mentality, I still think I'm back in that age, but my body doesn't agree with me. But, it's yeah, I mean, I think we still in mind, know what we need to do as far as Testament goes. I mean, we've always never tried to stray away from what our sound and who we've developed to be, I guess. And especially on this Fair Bellum record, I think we really culminated, I think, a lot of everything we've done over the years on this record, especially songwriting ways, and me singing on this record. I used like 4 different textures of voice, and I really haven't done that. And when I was done with the record, I was kind of sitting back going, it's kind of cool that after still creating music this long, still being challenged, still trying to find new ways to do things, but still be Testament. And this record, we really did. I think we did something, we tried to accomplish.
We're gonna play some of that record tonight and talk to you about that also. And if it's cool, man, I want to start out, pretty much where you started out. You were born in Oakland, California.
I was born in Oakland. We lived in El Cerrito. It's not far from Oakland, across the bridge from San Francisco. So those first year, then right after that, we moved out to Dublin, out to the suburbs, and that's where we grew up.
And your mom was a delivery room nurse, and your father was like a not a banker, but he worked on bank machines.
Yeah, he's Native American, got off, learned a lot of computer stuff. So he worked back in those 70s repairing a lot of banking uh, printers, machines like that. Yeah, my mom, she was worked in the delivery room, and a lot of my friends I grew up with, kids, all were. My mom was there, so yeah, my mom knows like a lot of my people and grew up in Dublin's kids.
She was probably the first person they met, I guess, you know.
Yeah,
But and you were one of 5 children,
yeah, that's the middle one. Yeah,
and you and your brothers, you guys were also into in the '80s driving Hondas. And
I drove a Honda in the '80s. I think that was my very first motorcycle, and I think I might have been 15 or 16. Got an old CB 750, and that was it. Chain leak, grease like hell. It was very unsafe, but 15 years old, you're fearless, and didn't matter. That was my only means of transportation. It didn't matter.
well, growing up with a group of brothers and stuff, you like always said, one of 5 kids, man. So the first, if I'm correct, the first record you ever purchased was a Beach Boys record. Was it a Surfin' Safari?
Uh, I don't know if it was the single or the album, but it had that song 409 on it. That was the one I remember, and I was like, all right, that got me back then. But I think we probably all done. I don't know if the same age, but back then we had Columbia House.
Yeah.
I think you'd pay a penny and get like 10 or 12 CDs, and I used to do that, and half of my neighborhood, except for my house, I would choose their addresses and send that goddamn penny, and that's how I got my music.
They always gave
Intercepted
you the generic
mail.
cases and shit. It's just
Yeah.
cases with no liner notes.
Yeah, well, yeah, they're all cassettes. You'd get like 10, 12 cassettes for a penny or whatever. But I didn't want it to come to my house. I didn't want my parents to find out, so I'd put it at the neighbor's house and watch the postman bring it to get my music.
Do you remember actually the first piece of music that actually you really had an effect on you where you heard it?
I mean, I don't know if, I don't know if it's what it was, but music in general, just at a young age, just in the car with my parents playing it all the time. At home, they'd watch Lawrence Welk, because always music, something going on. And then my oldest brother, played guitar. So that was kind of my introduction to see it in person, was having a guitar in the house. But he was, a lot older, 7 years older than me. So he was into more like Crosby, Stills, Nash, Creedence, and Hendrix. So it's a different, generation of music. But the guitar, I seen that, and his music wasn't really the heaviness or the sound I wanted, because I wasn't wanted to be a guitar player. So the guitar always drew my attention. So it was a guitar tone. So I guess, once I got into about seventh, eighth, ninth grade, that's when I started hearing, heavier tones and getting into harder bands.
I know you saw Kiss, which I'll talk about, but was that the first gig you ever saw?
Well, that was the first big production concert that that blew me away. Sorry for the dogs.
No
Hey,
problem. We have dogs on here all the time. It's no
uh,
problem.
that's Sid and Nancy Vicious.
I was gonna ask you. There you go. What's up, Sid and Nancy?
Sid, knock it off. Sorry about that. I lost my train. What was the question again?
So I know you saw Kiss in
Ah,
'76, but was that the
yeah, yeah.
first show you ever attended officially?
Yeah, and it's funny because it was 1976, so, I was only 14 years old, and my aunt dropped me and my cousins off at the, um it was at the Winterland in San Francisco,
Was that Rock and
and,
Roll Over tour?
um, 76, I don't know, what was that? I don't remember what tour it was, but that was kind of my first time being exposed. We weren't really smoking weed, but getting contact high. People were smoking weed around us. We're just kids, and I was the older kid. Me and my cousin were the oldest ones at 14, and we had our younger cousin at about 12. It just blows me away thinking back about it. Like, wow, man, dropping your kids off at a concert at that age by themselves. Who does that? So, but seeing Gene Simmons and the light show, the costumes and all that, to me was the first thing that was just like, holy smoke, the entertainment, just that blew me away. And I think, like any kid, there's a lot of related stories that kind of went home, and next thing weeks later, we're putting on rock concerts with tennis rackets for the neighborhood kids, trying to, be Kiss, so I think everybody shares that story.
Didn't Gene spit blood on you that night?
He did. I had a white T-shirt on, and that was it. Once I had what, and I saved that fucking shirt for a long time until it just rotted away. Um, but yeah, and that was it, and so Kiss was it, and that became the war in the house. Me and my two younger brothers were Kiss fans, and my older brothers were more old school rock, Led Zeppelin fans. So the war began. And that was kind of we're the metal guys, I guess, so maybe that was it. And then, after that, shortly, getting into harder stuff.
Well, and one thing I had heard you say in an interview before too is so around 13 and 14, you start playing the guitar, right? Because I know your brother played guitar, I think harmonica, but you never cared about the vocals or the lyrics at that point because your whole focus was to be a guitar player one day.
Hmm. Yeah, it's true. I mean, I would be the worst um, cover song singer because I'd have to have the a teleprompter to sing the lyrics because I never really paid attention to the story of lyrics when I was younger. I do now, and I see songs way different now. And I hear that I pay attention more to the lyrics and the melodies instead of the riff, where in the past I listened to the riff and ignored the vocals. So yeah, that's kind of where it all started. So bands like Judas Priest, when I was really young, those guitars just grabbed me. I was a big Priest fan growing up, and just Sin After Sin was like, oh man, that was just the baddest record I've heard.
And I have to ask, man, you've obviously, I know your history and Ed knows your history and you've played with Priest. I've seen interviews with you and Rob and, you go through where you are now and all the bands you played with. Could you imagine like 13 and 14, the path you would have taken? Like, as you said, you're a big Priest fan. And next thing you know, you tour with Priest for years.
Yeah, I never imagined that moment, but very lucky to meet all my heroes from Bruce to Ronnie James Dio to, those are the top guys in the metal world. To be able to meet them, befriend them, and share a stage with them was like, wow, this is unreal.
Your brother played in a band called Rampage, which eventually you would become a member of. And they were rehearsing in a trailer and you and your buddy was hanging out in the rehearsal trailer they were jamming in.
Yeah, that's kind of how it started. Me and Steve Souza actually. Um, Steve was actually my younger brother Andy's best friend. So um, those two guys, uh, and I was friends with the older guys in the band. So when we were out there, all those guys in the band sang their own parts, and they really didn't have a lead singer. So me and Zet were kind of like the roadies, hangouts, just hanging out. And just one day they asked me through me and asked me to sing, and I did. And next, they're kind of like, you're the singer now, and it's like, yeah, okay. And so that day forward, I kind of, you know, thought fake my way through that, but I still thought I was a guitar player. But then kind of figured maybe I should put the guitar down and try to figure out how to sing. So that's when I kind of, thought I maybe should go back to college and take some courses, guitars and theories and some vocal private lessons. I was taking out in San Francisco at the time, and then started going down that path, trying to learn how to be trained to be a singer. But when that all started, I was more of into, like I said, Dio, Maiden, a lot more melodic singers. I wasn't really into thrash metal yet, you know. So that came along shortly after I finished my lessons, and the kind of like the teacher cut me free, and I was kind of ready to start auditioning. I don't know, within a year or two later, I found Legacy, so kind of fortunate, trained for it, studied for it, auditioned, got the gig, and been here 40 years.
It's crazy. And your first time on stage, was it in, 1982 at a place called The Stage?
Yeah. Yeah. That was two cities over. My very first stage performance. And I guess maybe that's kind of where I really knew, I guess I fully committed. Knew I was just wanted to be a singer because I was fucking a nut, I guess. I had a wireless microphone back then. I remember running through the crowd, running on the chairs, and it was the stage was in a town called Danville, a really reserved, uppity town too. So, it was crazy to think back when we played there in that little city, but it
And you
was,
have footage of that.
yeah, I have the footage. Actually, I got the original 8 millimeter reels of that, you know?
You mentioned at that point you're still listening to the melodic stuff, and Willie of Rampage actually winds up joining up with Law's Rocket, right? And this is kind of an introduction to more of the thrash metal for you guys?
Yeah, well, Willie left Rampage and joined first a band called Diamond in the Bay Area. It was more of a, harder hair kind of band, Dawkinish, I guess. And then once he left that band and joined Law's Rocket, that's when it kind of changed. And Laws was a big Bay Area band at the time. Shit, Metallica was opening for him. Exodus was open. I mean, they were the headliners back then. They were hard, heavy, and put on a good show. And also Willie out of Law's Rocket, he almost became the bassist for Metallica, because it was between Jason and Willie, but Jason would happen to be the better player than Willie. Willie might have been the better showman, but at that point they went for the player, you know.
Willie passed away, 2018 in a motorcycle accident. Were you close with him until he passed?
But yeah, me and Willie were very close. Willie, we put the Dublin Death Patrol band together, and I even worked for Willie. He owned a trucking company that hauled U.S. mail. So I worked with him for a few years. And yeah, his passing was just a big hit for all of us and all of us, our friends, because we're all pretty close.
Do you still ride?
No,
Did that have anything to do with it, or was it your own decision?
no, I quit way before that because I was riding motorcycles since I was 15, the old Hondas, and had Harleys through being my wife's relationship. I rode, shoot, 30 years or more, and we never had an accident, some close calls. But, you know, when I decided the year to stop, once I started like feeling like I was defensive driving, I didn't enjoy it anymore. I liked riding out in the country where there's nobody else. That was great. But um, once they started putting Harley Davidson shops in most cities, and people were just buying them to be cool that maybe shouldn't be riding motorcycles, that's what scared me. I was always brought up and had bike etiquette. Steve Souza's dad actually taught me and all of us friends how to ride. He's a big Harley rider. And so we did a lot of trips, and he taught us the etiquette, how to pass, how to signal people and other riders. So we're just brought up like that. And I noticed late when I was riding, there was a lot of idiots that would just come passing you, no warning. And I'd like, if I would have changed lanes, I probably have just been done, and cars, when I'm cutting lanes, are starting to squeeze me out. And I'm like, this isn't fun anymore. And then my wife said the smartest thing ever I heard. She said, why don't you get rid of that thing? You haven't rode it in about a year. Look, do you want to go out and go hang out with your buddies, with all your old bearded buddies and leathers? Or do you want to hang out with me and my girlfriends with all double D boobs and bikinis and drink beer on the boat? I said, well, you pull it that way. I think I'm going to go for the boat. That bike is gone. Sold the bike, got a better boat, bigger boat, and and that's our thing. And then over time now we live on the water, so and my boat's in the backyard, so we're boating water people now. The bikes is gone.
Nice, that's awesome, man. And going back to the Rampage days and stuff. You guys are spending a lot of time. There's a lot of club parties back then, and a lot of house parties and stuff. Like, what are some of the bands you guys are hanging out with in those early days?
Well, in Rampage, we weren't hanging out with anybody because we were just kids in our own town of Dublin, and there's just a handful of local bands there that we're all competing against each other. Um, but when we would go over to see the big concerts in the city, of course, that was like the whole different world to us, because we were in Valley kids and going over to a big city, big difference. You know, um, it's funny because where we all lived in Valley in Dublin, I don't know if it's on the water or what it was, but everybody seemed to be over 6 foot tall, 6 foot something. So whenever us group of Dublin guys would come to the Bay Area shows, the Keystone Berkeley and stuff, I mean, we were all 6 foot to 6 foot 6, all of us guys, and it seemed like all the guys in Berkeley in the scene were just a lot smaller people out there. So it was just this weird thing, uh, where we came from. It's in the water. I'll blame it on that.
Back in those areas back then, I know Ruthie's Inn played a big part of everything, and Wes Robinson, who owned it. What memories do you have of Ruthie's Inn, and also how big of a thing was that for the thrash scene in that area and the metal scene in general growing up?
Well, it was the scene because Wes was, he was like a father to everybody because he just took care of it, make sure everybody was okay. And there was a lot of underage drinking, there for sure. I mean, I know myself going there first, one square bar, one bartender in a packed house. You reach over the counter, you got a bottle. While the back's turned, we would say, go over there, buy a drink, and when your back's turned, I'll grab the booze. And next year I got a fifth of Jack Daniels, and we're off, in the crowd drinking it. But it was just that was just it. You knew when you went there that you were going to see a lot of the same groups that you see everywhere. Same crowd after that show at the after party is going to be there. It was just a real, community, and the hot thing was we didn't really know that, hey, this is a new scene that was just starting the style of music, this scene. But I guess looking back, you knew it was special because even bands like Slayer and Suicidal, all them were coming out of LA to come up and play the Bay Area because LA had a lot of hair bands and, a lot more taking over that scene instead of a thrash scene like we had up in the Bay Area.
And that obviously that place plays a part in a lot of people's history. And when was the last time you saw Wes? I know he passed away. I think it was 2007.
Yeah, I'd seen Wes probably since I'd been early years of Testament, Once they closed down, I don't think a lot of people probably didn't see Wes.
Legacy we're going to now. Steve was a friend of your brother, and he was that's when you started going to Legacy shows was with Steve?
No, me and Willie and Greg, we were all in Rampage. When Zet joined Legacy, he was telling us about his band, Legacy, come check it out. So when we finally went to see them, you know, they were really good. We're like, wow, they're playing fast and heavy, man. And and for us, I'll be honest, it kind of went over my head really because I wasn't really introduced. Well, I was introduced, but maybe my flavor wasn't really there yet for metal as much. It was more for guitar tones, but not, you know, it took me a minute once I got turned on to Metallica and I knew Exodus, and that was a little bit extreme for me then. But, once I joined the band and went into singing boot camp with Eric for a year, learning how to sing like rapid fire vocals instead of trying to be a melodic singer. That's when I got it. It took me a minute. And then once I got it, I got it. And then luckily Eric and them let me kind of run free and probably push a little of my melodic influence on the New Order record, trying to put a little bit of melody with that same thrash style, so I kind of really quickly developed my own style within a few years time, but that's just the way it was then. We were young and hungry, living at home, wanted to go to the studio just to jam and get away and drink cheap beer. And that's what we did, and I think that's why we worked so hard. Those first 4 years of our career, we toured, we wrote a record, we toured, wrote a record, toured, wrote a record, toured, wrote a record, just like that, and we would do it on the road. And it's hard to believe looking back that we did that, but that's just was it. We were just wanted to get out of the house because we lived at home. We didn't want that. We wanted to get on the road, stay on the road. We had more fun on the road. And that was what it was.
Do you remember when Steve first, because he first told you he was leaving Legacy and he gave you Alex's phone number. Do you remember when he first told you that?
Well, I was still taking I think I was taking my group lessons at this time. I was done with my private lesson. I was taking group lesson with this teacher, Kathy Davis, and I finished her course. So I was like, okay, I was in Guilt, which Guilt, we did maybe one or two shows. I really didn't do a lot in Guilt.
Were you playing guitar in that?
No, I was just singing. My brother was playing bass. And so that was kind of like my first band after, okay, I finished all my training. I'm singing now for a band. And that band was more like a Dawkins kind of band, guitar wise, vocal wise. That was what I was kind of learned and trained to do. And, that was the harder side of music at that time for me. And then, Zet, decided that after we seen him and he was start doing their demo, and their demo did very well in Europe. At that time, he said, well, the funny thing was I was actually did my Guilt demo right next door when Exodus was recording Bonded by Blood. I was in the next room, and I was recording these real melodic, soft song, and for a Mike Varney record, US Metal Volume 2 on Shrapnel Records, back probably in 1981 or something like that, or 2 or something like that. Exodus was Paul Bailoff screaming in the next room, and I was like, "What the hell's going on over there?" And that's Exodus recording an album. And so that was kind of my introduction to Exodus, hard, heavy, out shit. And so when Zet was in Legacy, next thing you know, I was like, "Hey, I'm leaving Legacy to join Exodus." And I'm thinking, "Holy shit, really? Wow, that's that band." And for me, I was really ready looking for something else. And at that time, Zet and them had a record deal actually on the table with Megaforce Records. And he was going to leave that to join Exodus, which Exodus, I believe, might have had a record deal already with Combat at the time. So that's when Zet said, "Hey man, I'm splitting and I'm going to join Exodus. Here's Alex Skolnick's phone number. Why don't you give him a call, man?" And so I got the demo from Zet and I listened to it. And it was, I think, 3 or 4 songs. Listened to it, listened to it, listened to it. And it was really new because the style of singing, but the music was really mature for guys 16 and 17, 18 years old writing these tunes. So I called Alex up and went down for the audition. And granted, these guys knew me in Guilt, and they knew me in Guilt. I had like a little blonde streak in my hair. I had spandex pants, and they're like, "Dude, that guy's got to. If he's going to be in our band, he's got to fucking change." Sid. They're like, "If he's gonna be in our band, he's got to change. He's got to dye his hair black and wear darker clothes." So that's kind of like, they knew what they were kind of getting into, but they also said, "You know what? He could scream and he's got this melodic voice. Maybe we can, well, they liked that part of it." So that's what they gave a chance. So, I went for the audition. I remember there a place in Oakland and the room was so small that I couldn't even fit in the room with them to jam. I just put my PA speakers inside the room and I sang in the hallway. insane because I couldn't fit. So got the gig after that, and shit, been here ever since, man.
You had to cut a 3-song demo to turn in, right, to, Megaforce, and also you had a they came if I'm correct, they came to see you at a rehearsal, which is even more nuts because September 27th, 1986 is when Cliff died, and this is the day before they were coming to see you rehearse with the band for the first time, Megaforce.
So when I became the singer, that's when Johnny said, "Go do a demo with the new guy and let's check it out." So I did the demo. They listened to it. They arranged to come out to see us live, and yeah. So I think I don't know. We must have had a rehearsal at 12 or 1 o'clock in the afternoon down in Oakland, and they showed up and they were very tired, and something was up. We're like, "What's up? What's going on?" Yeah, and they broke the news that they'd been up all night with the news of Cliff. And we're like, all of us, bam, sombers. Cliff was, the Bay Area hero. And, here we are going to audition for our career, and the worst day in the life is happening. And so we do the audition, and it's just, we go through the songs, they're tapping their foot, they're jamming, no really emotion. And then at the end of it, just kind of plain and simple, like, okay, we got a deal, and it was just like that. And then we got to go. We'll be in touch. And off they went, and they had to, a lot to deal with after that.
And you had spoken to Johnny Z prior on the phone, correct? Before you had actually met him in person?
Yeah, we have definitely all talked to Johnny on the phone before, and just to get the call from Johnny Z at the time, because that scene was so new, and Johnny had Metallica and a lot of other bands, Ravens and Anthrax was managing and all that. So we're like, man, SOD was a big record we loved and band at that time. And we're like, man, we want to be with that whole corral of people. That's not a bad group to be in. Johnny's promoting these bands. That's where we want to be, Megaforce. And turned out Johnny took a chance on us, and we became friends and really remained friends even after our Megaforce relationship. Later in life, we started a management company with me, him, and Maria, and managed Exodus and Soilwork and Venom, and you know, bunch of bands we picked up. Um, that went well, so we remained friends for a long time. The biggest thing Johnny Z ever did for me and Eric is after our Atlantic year and record cycles were over, he told us to start a record label, which we did, Burn Offerings. And that was the best move we ever did in our career, was owning our masters for all our music we've made from that point forward. So that's been great, because those early years, we would make those records. We would try to get and sell it licensed to who would pay the most money, not necessarily who's the best. And sometimes those were the wrong moves, because like some of those early companies went bankrupt, you know?
Yeah.
And so if we were to record it on their label and been signed to their label, they would have owned those records. And those
Happens to a
records
lot of
and those
bands.
songs would have been gone in history, because those labels are gone. So that was the best thing that's ever happened with us and Johnny, and our whole Megaforce thing was starting our label.
Me and Ed are both originally from New Jersey. Obviously, there was Rock and Roll Heaven in East New Brunswick, and I know you actually wrote the foreword to his book too that came out.
Yeah. Yeah, we're tight right up to the day before, we're talking on the phone. It's hard. I went out and seen him actually a couple of weeks before that, just to see him one more time.
I remember you had I'd read it, I don't know if it was in the book or somewhere else, but you had said when you first met him, you thought he was absolutely insane, but you loved him, and when at the end, you thought he was absolutely insane, and you still loved him, like the best salesman.
Well, he was an idea guy. He always had ideas. There was if there was this, he would be a good guy at a major corporation, just sitting back making ideas at the conference table, because that was him. He was always, what if we did this, or what if we did? I mean, it's just constant, and some are good, some are great, and maybe some you'd think he's out of his mind, and that's why we would be like, man, he's just he was the guy who willing to take a chance. Look what he did with Metallica, put everything on the line, you know?
Yes, name comes up often on this show, and, and when did you guys decide to make the change from Legacy to Testament?
It was actually up in Ithaca when we were in the studio making the record, The Legacy. When we went into the studio, we knew that, okay, we're making an album, but we can't call ourselves Legacy because there was another band in the '60s that had the name. I don't think they were making records at the time, but they still had the name, so we had to change it. And we were in the studio. And when we first went to Ithaca, that we never left California really. So we're there and we're meeting Billy Milano. SOD is a big hero of ours, and he was great. We went to his parents' house in Long Island and had barbecues, and he had said one day, "Hey, I got it. I got the name." We're like, "What?" He's like, "Testament." And we're like, "Testament?" He's like, "Yeah, it's a testament, same thing, meaning kind of like a legacy, leaving a testament." Like, testament, okay. And Eric's kind of the artist in the group, so he started doodling, and next thing you know, he had the symmetrical T's and the A, and we're looking at it going, "Whoa, that you're it's kind of coming together like something." That, it kind of feels like a little Metallica-ish, with the real symmetrical looking logo, but wow, that looks good. And so, yeah, testament, okay. And so based on the way the logo looked, we kinda went with it, and it felt the same, it meant the same, and it looked better even. It actually looks stronger than Legacy, so
And what was the first official show you guys did under that name?
I don't remember the first one, but, obviously it had to be coming out of making the record. I don't remember the first show, what we played after we got home. I don't know if we did until the record was released. I don't remember.
And you mentioned going to that studio, it's Pyramid Studios in New York. You had done the demos and stuff. Was that your first time in a real studio? Because when you did that three-song demo, that was the first time you actually recorded?
Yeah, the three-song demo was well, the Guilt single was the first recording time in the studio, and then the three-song demo next to our manager's office, on an 8-track, I believe it might have been. I did that one, and then, yeah, the first time going to Pyramid, that's Alex Perialis, his studio, and Rob Hunter, which was the drummer for Raven, at the time, uh, was working in the studio as the engineer. So, you know, that was our first experience sitting down making a proper record because at that point we were just doing 8 tracks, demo stuff, you know? So when we got to Ithaca, because we got signed and we had a record budget and got money coming to us, we all bought brand new amps and stacks and drums. And when we got to Ithaca, it was like Christmas. All these fucking boxes are in the studio, and we're like, "Oh, look at this, man." We were like kids, man, because opening up brand new Marshall stacks, it was awesome. That just right there got you fired up to make a record. We're ready. Let's go, man. Let's plug these in and get them fired up. So we were excited, yeah, because we had never left California, and here we are making a record in upstate New York, driving ourselves around in the snow, getting ourselves back and forth to the studio. It's just a whole experience up there, they threw us into.
It's awesome. Yeah, you guys did that record. You guys also did a video for that record. What do you remember about shooting, Over the Wall?
But yeah, over the wall.
Was
That's
that
right.
Alcatraz, right?
Yeah, we shot uh, the footage on Alcatraz illegally. We couldn't get a permit, and so we did is we just got on one of the tours and had hid a bunch of cameras, and we fell back on the tour and and captured stuff as we went. We'd get off and fall back and record stuff. So a lot of that was really guerrilla tactic, quick shoot, film it, get it, and save it. And the rest of it was done at the Rock on Broadway across the street from the Stone, and that's where all that live stuff is on the stage and in the pit going on and everything.
I'm gonna play a track from that album now. I'm gonna play "Curse of the Legions of Death" here in a moment, but Zed had written the lyrics before you joined the band for that record. What was the first song that you actually had a writing credit in for Testament?
It was on the Legacy, the one of the last songs, "Do or Die." So I got to participate and write on that song. Yeah, so all the rest of them, Zet wrote all of the rest of the songs.
Yeah, I'm gonna play "Curse of the Legions of Death" now from that Legacy record, and we'll be back with Chuck Billy after this track on the Tampa Morgue.
Come on and fight! Witches and presses, the beats are repeating. My legion screams, the gate must be open. I'm after to repel a message of hope. Up through the gates we march. Settlers away to the sabers and craft. I'm back who below is the path. I'm back who below is the attack. Attacking with force there, we show no remorse. Obstructing our victims' fate. Something in the toss, saluting the fight. Our virgins must die this night. Satanic reaction must of his kiss is taking the life from your soul and leading the train in his truck from hell and finding our way through. Curse of the legions of death. 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 Curse of the legions of death.
And that was Testament with "Curse of the Legions of Death." Around 1988, The New Order comes out on Megaforce. You guys do that record again at Pyramid Studios. Number 136 on the Billboards of 200 chart. Those early records were all hitting the Billboards back then. And this is your kind of like when the band really starts hitting the road on tours.
Well, this is when, yeah, we got busy because we did the Legacy, went right away, America, Europe, finished writing the New Order in Europe in the back of the bus, mostly on an acoustic guitar, just writing it, coming home, working out the chops of doing, making that record, and bam, right back out there again. So yeah, the first 4 years we made 4 records, and toured on them all.
What was the first Testament American tour? Who were you guys with?
I believe that was Overkill. It was us and Overkill and maybe Nuclear Assault, I think maybe might have been the opener. Yeah.
How about the European? First European tour for you?
First European was with Anthrax. Anthrax took us over the very first time in '87. And again, it's all because Megaforce, who we're with, signed with, Johnny teamed us up with and got us out with a lot of the artists he had.
You guys, 88, you guys toured with Megadeth also?
Yeah, it was more Anthrax stuff, and then Europe was Megadeth. That's when we went with Megadeth and
What
did.
what are your memories of, like, as a kid, early Mustaine, like, say, like, 88, you're figuring, "What, that's so far so good, so what," I think, time period. When did you first meet Dave, and what do you remember about the '80s Dave Mustaine?
Well, I mean, like all of us, we lived hard and partied hard as well. I think in those early '80s, all of us. I remember Dave coming to MC some of our shows and introduce us. We played like Santa Monica Civic shows and things like that down there. Um, we became good friends, then because, we had a lot of things in common. We were new, music in common. Um, and it was great, but Dave is Dave, and Dave changes personalities over the years, and sometimes you don't know which Dave you're gonna get. So I've known probably a couple Daves over my lifetime of Dave. Let's leave it at that.
And you mentioned earlier Paul. What do you remember from Paul from Exodus? Because you were right next to him in the recording and stuff like that. Like as a person, how aggressive? Because he always seemed like he was just an in your face kind of guy.
Paul was wound up. I mean, Paul was very cool guy, always raging. He was always well, for me when we'd be together, it's kill posers. Just it was all about being heavy. So heavy. But Paul was a lot of fun. He always had a smile, grin on his face. I don't know an angry Paul. Maybe his closer friends do, but I don't know that Paul. I always remember early years, probably even before I was even in Legacy, going out to the Bay Area parties when Paul would throw parties at his house, Hell House, I think they would call it back then. And, me and my friends would go out there. And again, my friends are all 6 foot, 200 pounders plus. We would go to the house, and it was a house wrecking party because he got evicted. And I just remember us walking in, and I remember throwing beer bottles through the front window and walking down the hall, putting our forearms through the sheetrock and just punching the walls and just going to town on his house. And that's just the way it was. And Paul, the grin on his face while people are just doing damage. It was great. That's just who Paul was. He was just always up for a good time and let's go, let's rage. And ahead of his time because that scene and that style, he definitely commanded it and owned it.
Yeah, and for us, like I know me and Ed, like I grew up watching, from the outside watching bands like you guys. I remember 1988, you guys were on Headbangers Ball, you and Alex with Adam Carey actually, which is like the early Headbangers Balls. 'Cause I know you and Louie were on with Ricky Rackman eventually, and you've been on the show several times. For us, we were just wait on for Saturdays to see these videos. That was like for the average American metalhead kid, this was the big event for us. What memories do you have on, going on Headbangers Ball and stuff? Anything that stood out on you? Because we just found out from Bobby Gustafson last year that you guys weren't really watching videos during the commercials, and we were fucking bummed about this.
No, there's no commercial. It's all pre-taped, but I guess I guess it was kind of a weird feeling because we weren't really the kind of bands that necessarily were MTV pretty boy bands, I guess, like what was kind of being presented on that kind of MTV back then. So yeah, it was a little weird, but and again, they only give the metal show an hour show, whatever, Headbangers Ball, you know. Uh it was what it was, but it was good that well, you gotta understand also back when that show and they gave metal a chance, metal was actually being played on AM and FM radio in the car during drive time,
Yep.
back
College radio.
then, it wasn't even college. It was just either prime time AM, FM stations you could hear during traffic hours still metal. And I was like, back in those days, and I was like, that's cool. And then, those 90s hit and bam, all that changed. Programmers changed metal program and that no more metal on the dial anymore. Then it had to go to college radio only and then online and satellite and, everywhere else they can hide us.
Yeah, exactly. And we talked about obviously you're being a Kiss fan growing up, and then I think it's what 88. You guys are start playing Monsters of Rock with Kiss and Maiden and all these kind of bands, and you guys are doing shows with Nuclear Assault and Slayer and stuff. Was that cool for you opening up for when you played with Kiss, or was this starting to become? You had already been on a few tours. When did it start becoming the norm for you?
Well, that in particular, 1988, we're on Practice What You Preach record tour. He got a call that Megadeth couldn't play 2 shows in Germany, the Monsters of Rock shows, and if we could fill for them. We're like, "Heck yeah." So we fly out there, and these shows are on the Rhine River in Bochum, Germany, and Schweinfurt. and there's like 120,000 people. And this is the biggest show we've ever done in our life. We've never performed on a stage like this, and that blew us away. But here we are backstage, and all our heroes are there. We're still kids, young, new in the business, and David Lee Roth, he's sitting next door in his trailer, sitting out on his picnic table, and we're like, "Wow, David Lee Roth, man, let's go talk to him, see if I can get a picture." Going over, talk to him, and he's a cool guy and nice guy. We're like, "Wow, here, look at it. We're back here rubbing elbows with David Lee Roth, and oh, there's Kiss. Oh shit, seeing everybody, and that was here you are put to play it, and we're still fans, and it's unreal. Going, fuck, we're sharing the same stage, and I go back and look at those videos. I don't know if you ever seen those shows. You can probably Google them and see them. I'm like a fucking madman. For the 30 minutes I get that stage, I don't stop running or banging my head. I can't stop. I was like, man, I must have been so just pumped up and just,
Adrenaline.
yeah, adrenaline about to fucking explode. And it was great. And we took some of that footage and made the Nobody's Fault video shortly after that and used some of that. And that was cool.
And you mentioned Practice What You Preach, 89, you guys put that out, Megaforce. You guys do that at Fantasy Studios in Berkeley?
Yeah. Yeah. So that time we wanted to like stay closer to home. So we brought Alex Perialis, which did those first two fantasy. And then let's see, we brought in I think it was Michael Rosen. Michael Rosen might have came in on helping on that one as well. And Vinny Guono, I believe. They were working down at Fantasy at the time.
And you guys and that one also, I thought for me, this was a great album cover, man, and that painting was by William Benson?
Yeah.
You guys worked with him you guys do work with him again too, which we'll talk about. How did you get involved with William?
I think it might have been a contact through the label. He's an East Coast guy. I think when we were first looking for artists, his name came up, and Eric, he has a lot to do with that. So they worked hand in hand in those early years. You know, he did a good job.
And Atlantic too, you guys this is the first time you guys are also flipping over to Atlantic?
Yeah, I think we were distributed always by Atlantic, but I think Johnny must have had some sort of deal around that time where Atlantic got to take four of Megaforce's bands, and it might have been us, Overkill, King's X, and somebody else. And so next, now we're straight with Atlantic on their label being released by them, and that really changed. I think it's hard to say if we would have been on Megaforce, what direction we would have went, because Megaforce was a real metal label, straightforward. Where Atlantic, that's a whole different thing. They got bands and artists playing singles and pop records, and they have A&R departments with people kind of guiding bands. So we got assigned to a guy, and next, he's on us saying, "Hey, here's what selling on the radio. Here's what MTV's playing. Can you guys write me a radio song or radio friendly or a ballad?" So next, we started putting out that stuff, kind of for that guy. And it kind of changed the band a little at that point. I think that Practice record was more straying away from thrash metal, like the New Order and the Legacy. Um,
Is that where the ballad came from? Is that
yeah,
where that kinda idea that was kind of from that?
Yeah, the ballad, but the songs were more looking for catchy hooks instead of playing fast, and hard and heavy like the Legacy New Order album was. Oh, Atlantic, I think we're kind of changing. I don't know if maybe we wanted to because maybe we thought as a band, maybe, I don't know, who knows, going to get bigger, make a bunch of money, or who knows what we were thinking. But that's just the way it went, and that's kind of going into the next record, Souls of Black again, trying to write more ballads and accessible songs, and it kind of changed the band. I don't know for the good or bad. I mean, I don't know if we had had a career writing 14 thrash metal records or writing 14 records like we've done with different feelings and vibes growing as a band through the years.
And if you look at, like I mentioned earlier about the Billboard, again, this album, Practice, hits 77 on the Billboard 200. So the album's selling, I mean, and I remember when that album came out, and I do remember it was a bit of the change. And do you remember the reaction from the fans when you put out the ballad, this actual song from the Testament fans from prior?
Well, it's hard to say because we're still growing as a band. I mean, I think we started selling more records on Practice because maybe it was the exposure Atlantic was giving us. I don't know. That's a big machine, a big promotion machine. We're doing a lot of press. They push their band, so we did notice an upsale of things started to grow. At that time with them, and it seemed because it was growing and we're getting more popular, we're selling out concerts. I don't know. I guess we're on the right path. It's not going bad for us. So we're not selling less. So I think we're on the right path. So maybe Atlantic had something to do with it.
And you guys did 3 videos for that, right?
Yeah, I think, let's see, it must have been Practice, the Ballad, our Greenhouse. What was the other one then?
So the Practice, Greenhouse, and the Ballad, right? Was
The
3
Ballad.
for that
Yeah,
one?
the Ballad. Yeah.
I do want to mention a few of those videos from Practice What You Preach, but first I am going to play a track off of the Practice What You Preach record, Nightmare, Coming Back to You. Anything that you could tell us about that song?
Well, that was one of Alex's song that he wrote. I mean, those songs back then, they're all about trying to be catchy. That record, trying to write vocal hooks. So, me and Alex writing that hook, it's a nightmare coming back to you, that kind of shit. That's I don't know, it was a weird time. That's when Testament kind of was straying away from the thrash metal beats all in every song to where we're trying to maybe incorporate some different feeling of beat, but still have leaning forward into the aggression,
And when you look back on that time period for like that record and Souls of Black, I think is when you start seeing that really happen, right? Again, man, which, we grew up on those records. Do you look fondly on those records personally, or is that something to you as like a weird time for the band for the change, or to you it was just part of the progression? Because one thing about Testament, all the records are always a little different.
Yeah, I mean, it's part of the progression, but I mean, what back then when you start, what you don't know, right? Um, I sometimes have a hard time listening to the old records just because they sound really thin. The production wasn't, we didn't know what the hell we're doing making records. We're just laying down the tracks, not thinking about tone and how it comes across the speakers. So now when I hear those old records, they sound really thin. So thankfully that now that we own them again, took them back from Atlanta and we went and remastered so far the first 3 records and definitely warmed up the sound and made them sound more modern. And now I can, enjoy them a little more now than I did those real old original ones, So it's totally different eras. So when I hear those, yeah, it takes me back there. But there was a moment when I didn't want to go back because I didn't like the sound of it,
No. At least we're going to play Nightmare Coming Back to You from Practice What You Preach that came out in 1989, and we'll be back with Chuck Billy after this track on the Tampa Morgue.
Die
and that was Nightmare from Testament. I do want to mention, obviously that was the video time period of life for all of us, of our ages. And I do want to mention a couple of the videos from that album. You guys know the ballad. Now that was shot at a pool hall. Now the bikers, the actors in that, did you know them? Were they some of your biker friends or were they just paid actors?
No, at the time, that's when we used to always go to Texas to make our videos with Sam Taylor. Sam Taylor, I think, managed King's X at the time, and he was doing all those ZZ Top videos with the Eliminator car. So we were like, cool, that's cool videos. So we went to Texas to do these videos. So he's the one who had all the bikes, all the motorcycles, all the girls. So they took over all that in Texas.
So that wasn't your bike then, 'cause I had, in that video that you ride off on the end with?
No, but it was great when they came up with the plot and the whole thing, and you're gonna ride a Harley, and I'm like, hell yeah, let's go. And then when they brought it out there, I seen it like, oh, that's a badass bike, So I was stoked. But it
Nice.
was corny making those videos back then. We were young, we were starting out as metalheads thrashing. Not that's all the concern was. And then when we got to practice, that's when we were signed to Atlantic Records, kind of direct. They took 4 or 5 bands from Megaforce and Overkill, us, King's X, and don't know who the other two were. Went straight to Atlantic. So when we were writing practice, making that record, now we got Atlantic Records, who has a radio division, A&R department, big, massive marketing department. So now we're working within this metal band, not knowing much, working in this big machine, and next you know, they're sending an A&R guy to meet Testament, and their thing is, what do you got for me to push on the radio? What do you got for me to play on MTV? And of course, they don't understand thrash metal that early on, and they weren't pushing that on the radio or MTV. So we started getting them leaning on us like, where's this, where's that? And being young and naive, and you got to understand, we did the Legacy album, went on tour, did the New Order, went on tour, right in the Practice record, go on tour. Everything happened so fast. It was just like we didn't know better. We thought, okay, we can try to do that. And so I think it had something to do with maybe changing the sound at that time, trying to lean towards more catchy stuff, more melodic things, and it was a different approach on that record.
Yeah, and the last thing about those videos, when you guys did the Greenhouse Effect, you guys did Practice What You Preach, was that the same shot in the same day? 'Cause wasn't it like they're both empty venues, right? But I think there's different banners hanging up. I think, the Greenhouse had the logo banner, and maybe the Practice What You Preach had the actual album cover banner?
Yeah, Practice What You Preach was actually that was professional in Texas. The Greenhouse wasn't. I think we did that. I think they did. I don't know. I can't even remember what it looked like, but no, there was a lot of effects, I think, on that, and a lot of visual stuff on that. Because we knew we wanted another song, another single out there, but we didn't want to spend the kind of money that, what it costs, because those videos, they weren't cheap, man. And we didn't want to spend that because we're just getting ourselves into this debt that we really didn't at that time understand, because you think we're selling more concert tickets, selling more records. Hey, we're going to make it. We're going to be rich and famous and all that. And you don't think about that shit. And then next thing you know, you're working for a company that's giving you hundreds of thousands of dollars to make records and hundreds of thousands to make videos. And it's like having the worst credit card with the worst interest rate in the world, debt that you're accumulating here. And we didn't know any better till all of a sudden it's like, you know what? Wow, we're not really making a lot of money. We're spending a lot. It's costing us a
Yeah.
lot. Shit. Let's start paying attention a little more. So then we are concerned, let's not take that big money and make a video anymore. Let's start being cheap. you know
Yeah, and you guys in '89, you guys are doing shows like with Voivod, Nuclear Assault, Wrathchild America, Annihilator, and for people who are listening to understand the albums that were coming out at that time period from those bands, it was what? Handle with Care from Nuclear Assault, Climbing the Walls from Wrathchild, Nothing Face from Voivod, and Alice in Hell from Annihilator. That time period, when you guys are doing that tour also, you guys are also writing for the next record, right? Because I think if I remember correctly, I had read that you guys had the Clash of the Titans coming up. So you guys were kind of pressured to get the record done faster than you had wanted to?
Yeah. So, well, practice. We still went out on the Clash of the Titans Europe, and again, like I said, we did a record, went on tour. We didn't stop. Year to year, we had a record, we had a tour, we had a record, we had a tour, we had a record. We were on tour on practice. So while we're on practice, yeah, we were playing around with some riffs for Souls of Black, but then we got a Judas Priest offer. You guys can open up for Judas Priest. What? No way. Judas
Yeah.
Priest tour. Got to do it, man. Yes, yes, yes. Well, you got to have a new record though. Okay, no problem. Let's get to work, guys. We got some time and we did it before these last three records. No problem. We don't know any different. So we went and wrote Souls of Black. Maybe we could have spent a little more time on it, but overall, I think it came out good and the songs were catchy and it was the right record for the right time. And we did it. We had that record and bam, we're on tour with Judas Priest now. Another record, another tour, you know.
And you mentioned that Clash of the Titans. So how was that, man? I think that lineup, that time period, Slayer and Suicidal Tendency. How was the chemistry between the bands on Clash of the Titans?
I mean, it was a smooth ride. Um, all the bands got along. I mean, you got to think of, like, that was a big tour. We're playing some big rooms, selling out a lot of tickets. So for us newer bands, we were moving up the chain and things were growing, getting bigger. It was smooth. Uh, Dave Mustaine always has a way to throw a wrench in shit. I won't go deep into that, but we have those stories amongst him. But overall, it went smooth.
You've played arenas, you've played, obviously small venues. Are you a fan of, what is your preference? Do you like to play the intimate places, the intimate theaters, or are you more of a arena guy?
I like it all. I mean, I like there's something great about everything. I mean, it all depends. I mean, when you're having a good show, no matter where you're at, it gets fun. Like when my voice is on and I got control of my voice, don't matter where we're at. It's cool. What I do like is, a bigger arena or festival. I love playing outdoors. I love when it's outdoors or the sound's not bouncing off the back wall in a venue. I love it because I'm not sweating to death, playing outside. So I like that too, but I don't like the disconnect because you're like, 30 feet from the front row and the barrier and you're 10 feet above them. That's weird. You got to kind of do your thing, you know. So yeah, they all have their advantages, but you got to learn. I guess we just learn to adapt the mindset for what we're getting into for the day.
And the top, obviously, I think you've changed it up now when I've seen you, but back in the day, you had the top portion of the mic. That was kind of that was your stage, like air guitar kind of for you back then?
That was my air guitar. That was my safety net, because I started out in music. I wanted to be a guitar player. That was it. I wanted to play guitar and somehow I ended up being a singer. So I I was uncomfortable starting to be a singer without having something in my hand like that. I wanted to play guitar and maybe try to sing. So I figured, you know what? I'm going to put the half stand and use that as like I'm still air guitaring, like I'm playing guitar. It's just mentally, maybe it's something to do with my hands or while I'm not singing, something to keep me going. So I did it. And so next, I started like air guitaring and next, I'm playing solos on the half a mic stand and shit. I've recently stopped using it. I think over the last maybe 3 years, um, I started getting like a cramp in here, my arm, because I'd hold it so tense like this. My forearms after the show would be, fuck, I got cramps in here. I'm like, fuck, man, this thing's like starting to get me, or I'm getting old, or whatever. But so I started just using just the mic, and I ended up like having more fun and more things, and it just I enjoy it more now, just carrying the mic without the stand.
And there was a show I wanted to ask you about. It was, a bar brawl in New Orleans. You guys had an off day, I believe. Is there anything you could tell
Yeah.
us about that?
Well, I mean, I can't remember what tour that was. Oh, it must have been after the Demonic record going into, yeah, probably after Demonic. So 90, in between 97 and 2000, somewhere around there. Um, yeah, we had a night off. and New Orleans was a stop, and we said, let's stop there for the day off. But we didn't get there till like 12 at night. So we're like, shower up, everybody will meet you in the lobby at 1, and we'll go rage in New Orleans. So we go start out at the dungeon, and everybody gets really shit faced. And next thing you know, I don't know, it's 3, 4 in the morning. Let's go over to the Deja Vu strip club. They got food. We can get some drinks there. So we go over there, and we're just having a good time, eat some food, have some drinks. And our light guy is probably, we call him the elf, but he's probably, you know, 4'10", if that, maybe, 80 pound, 90 pounds, real small little guy. And he was sitting next to me while we're sitting down, and we're all drinking beer. And the table next to us looks at him and says, "Hey, get up, get out of this seat. Those are my seats." And he's like, these are my seats. And, that's all of us are there. And so he's like, he knocks over his beer. And so I go, "Hey, you owe my friend a beer." And he's all, "Fuck you." And that's all he had to say. And next, here comes the tomahawk over the top. Bam! And it was on. And then it was literally like a movie barroom brawl. Seriously, breaking bar stools over people's heads. Security jumped in then. And then security started getting on us and didn't realize that we are a group of like 12 guys, and we're all big dudes. So next thing you know, we beating up the guys that started the shit. They were done. Next, security's on us, and they're fighting us. And it was literally breaking bar stools on heads, pool sticks in hands, using them like fucking chopping wood on security guards. Guys holding people's security guys with Bion's bike. We're fucking slugging them. We take it all the way out into the street, and we fucked them all up. And so we're out of there. We're let's go, guys. Let's go. And we knew they're calling the cops. So we're like, all right, band members, we're calling a cab. Band members, get in the first taxi. And so the band members jump in the taxi, and we split. And then the crew, and I think Giorgio might have stayed back, but the crew, two of the guys were real hothead fighters. They love to fight. And so they got away, and the guys came out and they taunted them like, "Fuck you, come back, we'll kick your ass." Taunt them. So here comes our guys back. They come back to the fucking bar, dummies. Bam, cops are there. They arrest all of them. Our bus driver was even with them. He was a retired Air Force colonel, and he was there. He gets arrested. So me and a couple other band members and the merch guy who didn't go back at the hotel, he had all the money. So I'm like, okay, I got to bail these guys out in the morning, go down and bail them out. And they gave us a court date. We didn't show up. They let them keep the money, and we were out of there, and it was funny because in the morning, they're like, "Oh, what happened? We've got to fight at Deja Vu." "Oh, they're known for fighting down there. How many of your guys got hurt?" We're like, "None. We fucked those guys up." you know,
Oh, that's great.
True Roadhouse.
True road.
Yeah, or
It was
Bronx Tale.
it was straight out of a movie. But it's one of those. We had the right group of guys that night for what was going happening.
I'm gonna play something from Souls of Black here in a second, and then you guys did that at Fantasy Studios in Berkeley?
We went in and probably recorded and mixed and everything within a month or two, probably 5, 6 weeks. We went in and had it done and ready for the tour. You know,
Did you finalize the lyrics and the vocals in the studio for that one?
no, no. At that time, we all kind of wrote together in the same room. We were still kind of jamming in the same room, writing or jamming on tour or jamming on sound check or something. So we were all kind of involved at that point in songwriting. And once, because we wrote so many records so fast, that just seemed like the obvious way to keep doing it. Just let's all as a team, let's go. We got a tour offer. We need a record. Let's do it.
And the cover art for that record, obviously when we were growing up, album covers were a huge thing. I mean, how many albums, I don't know about you, Chuck, but me and Ed had bought just by the album cover back then. That's how you kind of judged. And I thought Practice What You Preach, and I thought Souls of Black had a great cover, man. How important to you is album covers And, how much input did you have on those record covers for like Practice and Souls?
I never had anything to do with it. Eric's the artist. He's a draw. He draws. He'd always come up with that. So that was kind of his thing. But, you know, definitely you're right. Art catches you. Like when I first seen like my first Exciter record, Heavy Metal Maniac with the stack and knife through it and blah. I'm like, fuck yeah, I'm getting that record. I didn't care what it sounded like. I didn't even know who the band was. So I was buying records by how cool the art looked. So yeah, that it's very important. So you got to realize back in 80s, we had record stores still, you know,
Yep.
and remember in all those record stores, they had displays in the window and all the record covers making displays. So yeah, to catch somebody's eye, you wanted to have cool art, wanted to have something cool. So yeah, it was very important back then, for that. And then, for it to cross over into a t-shirt, hell yeah, you didn't realize that was your bread and butter in the future, you turned into t-shirt salesman instead of record salesman.
And do you have a favorite Testament album cover?
I like them all. I like everything since we had Elleran starting working on our
Yeah.
covers. But I'd probably have to say, like, color-wise and just the depth of the art would probably Dark Roots of Earth. When he
That's a
came
great
up with
one.
that big head made out of roots in the earth and all shit going on around it, I thought that was very cool.
Definitely. I'm gonna play Malpractice from Souls of Black. Anything you could tell us about this track?
Again, another song you picked Alex wrote.
There you go.
So Alex's songs must catch your ear. Malpractice, but again, lyrically, that was one of Alex's, you know, talking about topics about malpractice. What metal bands writing songs about that? So Alex obviously at that point was writing more politically influenced or real topics in life instead of writing about, cliche metal lyrics of gobs and goblins and, death and, whatever. He was more about writing serious topics. So I guess that's maybe those started popping out on their own, but also making Testament also be recognized as a environmental conscious, social conscious kind of band that was something we thought about.
I'm gonna play Testament Malpractice from Souls of Black, and we'll be back with Chuck Billy on the Tampa Morgue after this track. and that was Testament with Malpractice. And Chuck, at this time, like again, the Souls of Black comes out in '90. You guys go to Japan, I believe, that year. You guys are playing shows with Metallica, Priest, COC, Alice in Chains. Man, did you actually have any? Did you actually have any experiences with Lane Stanley back then?
I think that Clash of the Titans, Alice in Chains replaced us when the American
That's right. It
version
was
come back.
Megadeth, Slayer,
Yeah.
Anthrax, and them.
Yeah, so it's different. No, but it's funny when I did meet Lane, when I'd go see them when they're playing some of the sheds, he was a big metal fan, he was a Testament fan. So I remember, I think the first time and maybe even the last time I even hung with them, I remember he drank a lot of Jack Daniels. I was drinking Jack Daniels back then, and we drank a lot of Jack Daniels that during the day. And I was like, oh my God, hope I didn't get this guy too drunk before he has to play tonight. And he got out there and he just nailed it like the record. I was like, holy shit, how'd that guy do that?
You don't drink before the gigs now, right? You don't smoke before the gigs or on tour. Is that how you keep your voice up now?
Well, not drinking, but smoking. I don't smoke on tour anymore. Um, I love smoking weed. When I'm off the road, they
Same
call me
here.
they call me Cal Fire. I burn it down here. When I'm off the road, and that's part of my discipline and ritual. I love weed so much. I got to kick it like about 3 weeks. I'm right now. If I got sweaty palms as we speak because I'm getting ready to tour. I'm getting off the weed. I haven't smoked a joint in 2 days, so I'm weaning myself off of it right now, getting ready for tour. Because when I get on tour, I want to have a straight head. I don't want to fuck up my lungs. I don't want to stand. I'm using my throat. I don't want to do that because I know what it dries it out when I'm not singing at home. So that's been helping me a lot. I noticed once I started doing that, I'm strong through the tour. Voice is holding up through the tour. Drinking, I quit drinking for about 6 years, and I started back up again. But I don't drink. I mean, I probably drink more at home socially than on tour. At tour, I'll have maybe like right before the show when I'm doing my warm ups, I might have a beer, warm up, and then I'll go on stage. I'll maybe have 2 beers during the show, and then I don't drink after the show. I'm done. That's just for me to get in the mood, get loosened up, and go with it during the show time. And then after that, I'm done. So and then I'm always the one right away after the show's done. I kind of have my routine. I have a spot on the back of the bus or up in the top front lounge where I'll go do my own thing or go to bed early. I don't stay up late and party with the guys and hang out, listen to music all night like everybody. I kind of do my own thing and try to make sure that, as I know, if I get sick, I'm screwed. Tour's over. So I'm always the one nervous about getting ill.
I have to give you credit too, man. I couldn't imagine how many joints you must get offered every night on tour. I couldn't even imagine having to say no so many times, man. It's got to be a kick in the balls a little bit.
Oh, my crew love it because I'm still up there going like, yeah, I smell your weed out there. And next thing you know, joints are flying. I'm like collecting them, giving it to my crew. They're all, thank you. So yeah, I mean,
That's
it's
true,
it's
yeah.
still cool. I mean, it's probably something I probably could have just kept silent, but it's like, you know what? This is what gets me through it.
Yeah. I know you guys played Slayer in 1990 on the European leg, right? The Clash of the Titans. When is the first time you played with Slayer? And back then, you had Mark from Death Angel, you obviously, Mustaine from Megadeth, John from Nuclear Assault, Blitz from Overkill. Who was one of your favorite vocalists? The voices were different. Everyone had their own distinctive thing.
Well, back then in the early days, I mean, James Hetfield was the only one for me that I kind of understood or got as a heavy singer with hooks and kind of a little melody in there. Um, let's see. Slayer first time was in 1987 before our Legacy record came out. We played 2 nights at L'Amour's with Slayer. And to open up for Slayer in those days was you're asking to be fucking brutalized as the opening act. beers thrown at you, yelling at you, screaming, Slayer, Slayer, the whole time you're playing, spitting on you, all this shit, and so here we are in New York. We only been to New York to make the record. Now we're playing L'Amour's, the famous L'Amour's with Slayer. And we come out 2 nights, so we come out the first night. And I guess, nobody really knows us, but all we had was our first 9 songs that we ever knew off the Legacy. Pure thrash. So here we are, young kids full of fucking fire, man. We get out there, here's our opportunity to open up for Slayer. Crowd doesn't know who the fuck we are. They don't give a shit. But by the 3rd song, I think we won them over because we were fast and furious, banging hard. And I was fucking gross. People were fucking spitting and I was fucking catching them in my mouth and it's spitting back on them. And they were just like, wow, gross. What the fuck? So next thing you know, I was just I think by the 4th, 5th song, then they were saying Testament and we were getting a response. And the second night was totally different. Next thing you know, they kind of knew, and right out of the gate, because it was probably the same crowd sold out, they were into us right out of the gate. So it was like a totally great feeling. And I remember that night was special too, because I remember the Anthrax guys came to the show, they were local there. So we were hanging out, really getting to know those guys at that time as well. Billy Milano was a big influence on our life. SOD was a big band for us going into those early years. And he was down at that show hanging out with us. And he's the one who named Testament, so that show for us was a big foot in the door with especially the Slayer camp, because after that we went to Europe with Slayer. We went all over with Slayer. A lot of tours over our career with Slayer.
You guys do The Ritual next. When you guys do that record, it is definitely a different kind of sound for Testament. You guys also work with Tony Platt, who worked with AC/DC. And you went out to London to Battery Studios to work with him on that one?
Yeah. We recorded most of it up here in the Bay Area and then went to London to mix it and do the final stuff with it. Yeah, Tony was famous for AC/DC, so when we're making that record, those were big rock songs as far as we were concerned. It was different era for Testament. And we thought maybe we need to go with these big wig player producer guys. We wanted a big rock sound, I guess. And he did a great job. We have that AC/DC snare. You listen to it, that's it.
Yeah.
That's Back in Black snare. And so it came out good, but I think that was a disconnected time with the band because, Alex was gearing up to leave, after that record was done. That was his final record with us. And maybe we're kind of not seeing eye to eye, and maybe we just been together too much for those first 4 years. And now the 5th year, we finally got a break, and, people are growing up. Figure Alex was 16 making that first record. He didn't have teenage childhood growing up, he missed a lot. So I don't know, maybe there's just a lot of factors played into that, what was going on with us at that time.
And you guys knew Alex was leaving, right? Because I think the last show he did was a Halloween show, and you guys knew that was his last tour when you guys were on that?
Well, we knew that was going to be his final, after the record came out, he was going to be his final touring on the cycle, think the last, we did a tour over in Europe with Heaven and Hell with Ronnie James Dio singing. And that's when we kind of knew Alex decided that he was leaving. So we came back and had an American tour. And at that time, Louis, the drummer, had started up a little sexual relationship with our A&R girl at Atlantic Records. And so then next thing you know, Louis running off, quitting the band, bailed on us in LA, didn't show up to the show. And she was from LA, and we all show up. Louis didn't. So that show in LA, we were pulling fans out of the crowd. If anybody knows how to play any Testament songs, come on up. Let's give it a shot. Most embarrassing thing ever to try to do. And next night, here's the final show of the tour, Alex's last show with Testament. No Louis. What are we going to do? We didn't cancel. Let's do what we did last night. Fuck it. I think we got Perry Strickland. Maybe we called up to learn a couple of songs to get through them, and then anybody else, come on up. We're gonna play some, songs or some covers or whatever we can do to get through the night. So it was really a really odd departure and breakup. Louis was gone, didn't show up for the last show. Alex, that was his final show, and then after that, it was it, and things changed.
Was it Paul Bosthoff after that or Joe Tempesta?
So the Ritual still had Louis. So then the low record was John Tempesta. He came in to do the low record.
So Alex is gone.
Yeah.
Is that when you guys decide you want to do something heavier? Because the low record on the track, Dogface Gods is when you first change in vocals. You guys decided when Alex and Louis left, like, hey, we've been on Atlantic. We've kind of changed it up a little bit. Let's get back to the roots again a little bit, or make it more heavy, more extreme.
Well, there's a few factors, I mean, when we wrote the Rituals, because again, we were butting heads. Maybe me and Eric wanted to be heavier. Maybe some other members didn't, so we compromised and got that record. Alex was gone. Louis gone. We bring in, Johnny, who's a great drummer, and Derek Ramirez, I best. No, he didn't play on it. He played on Demonic. So at that time, and then now metal's not as popular in these late 90s. Music is changing. The Nirvanas, the Pearl Jams, all the stuff is changing. So this is our final record with Atlantic. Things are changing. Bands breaking up. Fuck, I'm pissed off, man. So I want to write a harder, heavier record. Nobody's objecting with us, Eric. Let's go. And so we're writing a heavy record. And so we wrote Dogface God. Oh shit, this shit song's heavy. Tuning it down. You know what? I'm going to sing that song all the way heavy with my heavy voice. And so I did. So that was kind of my first leaning into singing a full Chuck Death style song. Got a lot of slack from the old school Testament fans. No, don't do that. But then I also got some new fans. Oh, I love it. Keep doing that. Do that. So now here we are on a Mixed Fence, last record on Atlantic. Can't please everybody. Bam, no label, We're done with our Atlantic Records contract. What are we going to do? Times are different. We don't have a label. Metal's, is it dying? I don't know, man. Hope not. So, we start moving into the demonic era, and once again, Gene Hoglan comes aboard then. Now we're tuning down again. These songs are heavier now, even than that low Dogface God song. Wow, holy shit. I guess I got to sing a little heavier on this record. So I actually really started trying to sing some melodic stuff, but it just didn't feel natural. Went back to the death voice. Ah, dude, that's right. That feels good. Okay. And so I did it. And it was a good record. That was the first record me and Eric put out on our own label because we started Burn Offerings back then. We gave it to a label necessarily to license deal. They weren't a good label. They ended up filing for bankruptcy. Good thing we licensed it to them because now we took it away, took it back, and took it to another label. Now, those songs
that was
were
Music for Nations.
That might have been Spitfire Records at that time. Eagle Rock, Spitfire Records. So they folded, and if Johnny Z didn't tell us to start a label and we didn't start licensing our music, I think a lot of our music would have been lost in those eras because they would have owned it. Since we licensed it, we own it. So we got to take it with us. So, here we are trying to cut a deal. We want to get the most advanced. Maybe they're not the best label. They're an independent label. This isn't Atlantic. The money's not strong as Atlantic. So we choose the most money, but it turns out that label wasn't the best label. They didn't last. They went bankrupt. We took the records back and moved on to another one, after that, so that was a weird time, and touring Demonic was brutal on my voice. I was singing those songs and and maybe I really didn't know how to control my wind yet to sing like that and not hurt my voice. So I think I was over singing and doing it wrong when I first was doing that. And I hurt my voice and I was hoarse and I was like, man, this is tough, man. Got to figure it out, So I got through that. And then we came up into the gathering part. And that's when I knew that I don't want to do the demonic record again like that. That was too tough for me physically on my voice to tour it. Let's try something different. And again, that's when now we got Dave Lombardo stepping into the picture. Holy shit, we got Slayer drummer in our band now. Okay, Steve DiGiorgio, wow, best bass player, in my opinion, in the world.
James Murphy.
James Murphy filling in. Wow, coming from Death, hell of player. We got a pretty good band, and Eric working with Dave, and Dave did a great job, constructed some of them songs with Eric that all of a sudden now we found a New Testament, as you will, because we found a new sound again. It got back to the thrash, got back to me singing a little more thrash style with death style, with screaming. It's almost like I culminated everything I did into the Gathering record at that time. And especially the time wasn't a metal time. There was a new era of metal coming in with Lamb of Gods and Kill Switch and all these bands making new names during those times, and new metal bands making their names. So all of a sudden, okay, we feel relevant again. We struck something, a nerve here on that record, and it was cool because all of a sudden Andy Sneap, when he came in the picture on that record, he did a great job. And next thing you know, that record kind of was being used as a reference for a lot of bands with his mixes, because Andy did such a great job on it, So, wow, we're onto something here again. And, it's 2000. We're in a new fucking era here, So it was like really like starting over again right then.
And I'm going to play Dog-Faced Gods from the Low record. This is Testament with Dog-Faced Gods, and we'll be back with Chuck Billy after this track on the Tampa Morgue. And that was Testament with Dog Face Gods. And, you mentioned obviously Demonic record, The Gathering, and First Strike Still Deadly. That was a re-recording.
Yeah. So around the time after The Gathering, um, when I think I got sick in 2001, diagnosed with cancer, and so during that time we were asking Atlantic if we could remix some of the old records, and they weren't interested. So Johnny Z and them told us, "Hey, screw them. If you re-record them, it's going to be sounding modern technology where we're at today. They're going to sound better. You're going to own 100% of the master. They're all you. You don't need that Atlantic anymore." So we decided, you know what? Okay, let's do that. So we started recording from the Legacy and New Order. We picked out the songs out of those records to record. And so while I was ill, you know, our friend Walter Morgan had put on the Thrash of the Titans benefit show for me. And during that time, we were actually recording the First Strike Still Deadly recordings at that time. So when that show came about, we were already tracking, and Alex was in town. And while he was there, I was all, "Hey, Alex, we're re-recording some of the old songs. Since you're here, do you mind coming down, laying down some solos?" And so he did. And so he stayed in town after that benefit show and recorded on the First Strike Still Deadly record. So that kind of opened the door back up to Alex in Testament. But at that benefit show that day before, Louis, Greg, Alex, that was the first time we had actually really seen each other in a long time since we split. And the first time we all got up on stage together and played, what song did we play? Disciples of the Watch. We played a couple tunes that night. That was the first time Testament, the original Testament, got back on stage. And also that night, first time Exodus, Death Angel, Forbidden, Violence, Heathen, all the Bay Area bands that might have had issues that broke up all came together that night and started something again. So it's just kind of this, I look at it as this weird thing that, I took one for the Bay Area team to get cancer, to bring us all back together, to get us back on the path, even Testament, getting back on the path together, so it was one of them things that, it just kind of something that had to happen. We had to go through. And then the First Strike Still Deadly just happened to be being made at that time while those guys were in town. So luckily I got Alex there. We made it. And shortly after that, I got Andre Verhusen, who did the Dynamo Festival, call me up and asked us if I can get the original Testament guys to do a show, because he got the original Anthrax band to come play his Dynamo Festival. So I said, well, I seen the guys at the benefit. I can ask them. And so I did. And everybody said, you know what? That actually sounds pretty cool. Anthrax's first band we went over in 87. Yeah, let's do it. So here we are. We got the original guys getting ready to go play a show over in Eindhoven with Anthrax. And that kind of opened the door again, because I originally thought I was done in Testament. I had no plans to play in the band anymore. I was on the other way out, healed. I was like, I'm done, So it was a blessing to be back with the guys and have a second chance at this.
With the 2001 cancer diagnosis and stuff, how did that change you, like your life, as of like the way you saw life in general, like before that to after, going forward? How big of a change was that for you mentally, that you beat that?
Well, I mean, of course, anything like that, you don't know the outcome and way it's going to happen. So to get out on the other side, of course, life's different. You cherish things a little more. Don't sweat the big shit. There's things to appreciate more. And for me, family first, but also, us touring the way we toured and partied the hard. I missed a lot of the cities. People always said, man, you're so lucky you get to go on tour and see the world. It's like, no, I didn't. I seen that venue. I didn't see anything. I seen the bus and the venue. So appreciating what I had and going on tour was a whole different eye opener. Now it's like, what's going on in this city? What do I get to see? I'm next, I'm like a tourist on tour.
Yeah.
So it was a whole different thing, appreciation for everything and music. But again, we also moved forward as a band, not talking about the future. We just wanted to kind of happen naturally and not spoil the moment that we had at the time touring together.
You guys had played with Nick Barker, and I know Nick Barker's having health issues now, and that was what, 2007 Nick Barker was involved with the band?
Yeah, around there because Alex was back. We did the record and Nick was going to tour on the Formation of Damnation record with us. And he was actually going to, be recording the next record with us, but he didn't make it that long.
You mentioned the Formation of Damnation record, which is obviously the 2008 record. That's you, Alex, Eric, Greg, and Paul on that one?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's the first one where you guys use Kantar on the artwork?
Yeah. Elaran, I think, might have been the first record on that one. We worked with him. Kind of a fluke finding him through our manager at the time. And he's been killer ever since. I love his work. Works hand in hand with Eric, and it's awesome.
And that's the first album when Alex is actually, like you said, on the First Strike, Still Deadly was kind of like him coming on and doing some stuff with you guys. But the first album he's actually officially back would be the Damnation record?
Well, it was because in 2005, when, we went to do that Dynamo show, one show turned into 10 shows in Europe, and then it kind of just snowballed to people around the world wanting the original band. We didn't talk about it. We just said, we just did the dates and moved on. And 3 years went by to where like, hey, we survived 3 years. We didn't break up. Things went great. What do you think about writing a record? And that's kind of just was like, let's do it. We're going to write a record together now. So that kind of started, the process. And I think after living with the original guys, and having Alex and Greg and being on tour together, we were ready to make a record together like that. And I think selfishly, we went into that record writing those songs and everything for ourselves, because I felt it was a blessing again that we're actually getting to make another record. So here we go, and it ended up being a cool, great record. We're like, wow, that's a good, strong record for all the guys coming back, because The Gathering, for me, I thought, wow, that was our best record. How are we going to top that, guys? Not looking forward to that. And then we did Formation, and then in some weird way, I think we did.
That's when Nuclear Blast relationship started too, right? Around that time period?
Yeah.
The Damnation record?
Let me think. Yeah. Damnation was it, because we had actually been wanting to get on Nuclear Blast, but we just couldn't finish our obligations with the labels we had licensed to. So once that expired, Nuclear Blast was where we wanted to go. And so we knew at that point was going to be the first record with them.
And your second record with them would have been Dark Roots of Earth on Nuclear Blast. That's Gene Hoglan, Greg, you, Alex, and Eric. And that was recorded in 3 different studios on that record?
Let me think. Yeah, because Alex lives in New York, so he recorded at home. Eric does all his recordings at home in Sacramento, and then we recorded the rest of it down in Martinez at Juan Urtiaga's studio, Trident studio, which we always go record at. Let me think, where did we mix that one? I don't know. Oh, it must have been with Andy. Andy must have started mixing those ones out in England at that time.
Then 2016, you guys do Brotherhood of the Snake on Nuclear Blast. That's you, Eric, Alex, Gene, and Steve on that one. And that one took you 2 years to write that one? That was like one of the longer ones for you guys to write the material?
Yeah. So you got to figure 2012, 13, 14 couple of years of touring that, 15, we're going to make a record, It took 2 years. It was just, me and Eric are the main songwriters, but I would probably say, Eric was probably experiencing some rough times in his marriage, so maybe he had a lot on his mind and wasn't focused, I guess, and ready, and just couldn't set aside his focus to get it done. And it drove me crazy. Because when I write songs, I get them, when I go down to write lyrics, I write them that day and they're done. So I just didn't have all 100% of the music and all of it. So I couldn't get my part done, and it was frustrating. And we finally got it done, and it was a 2-year process, and it came out good, and they were great songs. But I was like, you know what? I can't do that again. It was just, it was brutal. But it was something maybe that, it's just weird. It's, again, maybe if Eric wasn't going through what he was going through, he could have got it done quicker, you know?
And that changed things for you guys on the next record, correct? 'Cause that changed the way you guys started writing on the 2020 Titans of Creation record, because that's what you, Gene, Alex, Steve, and Eric again. But that's the writing process kinda changes going on
Well, totally.
to now, which we'll talk about the next record, obviously, in a couple minutes here, but that's kinda when everything starts changing for you guys?
Well, I didn't want to do that again. I'm like, there's no way I could do it like this, Eric. And I had actually told him, just give me the riffs, give me the music, and I'll just write my parts over whatever you give me. You put together a song, I'll make my part work. And really taking that approach, by me not selecting the riff I want to sing on, it actually made me uncomfortable. I was all of a sudden trying to come up with parts or hear a vocal melody over something that wasn't comfortable for me. But it forced me to take my time and figure out what is going to work on this and feel right. And so it pushed me to write better, I think, because I was more focused on each song. And each song came out, when they were done, having their own identities, and they were better songs, I felt, than the last songs we were writing. I was starting to experiment using different voices and stuff. So I thought, wow, this record came out really good, the songwriting. So we were onto something the way we did it. And also, going into this next record, I wanted to take that same approach. But in the meantime, Eric finally resolved his divorce, got that settled. Now he was in a really good headspace, living at home alone. Chris is coming out. He's got time on hand. He's hungry. He's ready to go. And so next thing you know, we're writing this record. Man, he flooded me with riffs. It was like, oh shit, man, where's this coming from, man? And again, I look at it, he's just in a good headspace right now. He's focused.
And Chris, you mentioned 2023, Chris joins the band, and man, he is a beast. Me and Ed talked about him, and actually, we're gonna talk about the new record now, but I am gonna play a track from the new record as we go into the discussion about the new record. I'm gonna play "For the Love of Pain" from Parabellum. Anything you could tell us about this track before we talk about the new record?
Well, this is the song Chris Dovis wrote the lyrics to. And it was one of the later tracks that we wrote for the record. So I was kind of quite surprised when it ended up being the opening track, but once I heard it as the opening track, I got it, because it does wallop you. It has a little bit of everything, and it's really brutal. So it was a good first opening selection, that one.
And this is Testament with "For the Love of Pain," and we'll be back to talk about the new record with Chuck Billy, the Tampa Morgue, after this track. And that was For the Love of Pain from Testament. And again, October 10th, 2025, you guys put out the Parabellum record on Nuclear Blast. First of all, the writing process for this. Well, Chris and Eric were tossing around riffs to you, and you were kind of feeding off of that with them on this one?
Well, no. I mean, when we write songs, we never jam as a band. We never do that. We
When's the last time you guys actually wrote an album jamming as a band?
Ritual, maybe, I don't know, something like that, or way back. Of course, me and Eric might jam in a room together, but from probably formation on, I get the music. Once we go, okay, that's the arrangement. We're digging it. That's the song. That's the arrangement. I go down and this is not with the band. This is Eric demoing. So the rest of the guys don't really know the songs at all. So I go down, I write the lyrics. I come home, I go right in the studio and I record them with my first instinct impression of what I want to do. The gut instinct is usually my right instinct when I'm creating songs. So when I go in, I don't know what voice I'm using. I got to find out which one is the right one, which is the right approach. So that's kind of the way I go through every song to feel my way around what is going to work, vocally. So those guys here, once I do the first takes and I go, okay, there's the song, send it to the rest of the guys, let them hear it, and let's hear the feedback.
And Eric, when he gives you riffs, they already have working titles to them. Every riff he gives you?
Well, he's got his own reference working title for him. I change them, but I do sometimes keep them. Sometimes I'll stick with it because it is a topic. So I'll say, okay, that's the topic. Simple. He loves that title. Simple. I know what to write about. But most of the time when I write the song, either because I've been writing songs with Del James for, probably 25 years or even 30 years. Same with Steve Souza. I've been writing with him too. So when we work, we go down and we don't mess around. I'll go down for a weekend and I'll come home with 4 written songs, So the process happens fast.
And with Del, The Ritual was the first album he wrote on with you?
Yeah. So God,
And how did he get, for people who don't know, how did he get involved with you? Like you said, it's been 25, 30 years you've been writing with him. How does he get into the picture?
Well, Del he was the chief editor of Rip magazine back in the 80s. And Gene Ambo was a photographer for Rip magazine. And those two guys flew out to Europe. I don't know if it was a Clash of the Titans. It might have been somewhere around there, but they flew out to do a piece on Testament and travel with the band. So that's kind of was our first introduction with Del. And me and Del hit it off because Del was he's an old biker, long-haired biker. And we just hit it off. And he, he was known and friends with the Guns N' Roses guys. And he actually wrote songs for Axl. His big song he wrote is November Rain with, for Guns N' Roses. That's his song. So I was like, man, we connected on a street level vibe, but I always felt myself, I wasn't a good songwriter, lyricist. I wasn't a poet, and I've always come from wanting to be a guitar player. So I knew that I if I wanted to, because I was working with Eric and Alex a lot writing in the early days. So now when I'm more on my own, I didn't want that only responsibility. I felt that if I can find someone to write with that can interpret my thoughts into some cool wording and storytelling, cool. So I called Del and said, hey, man, knew that he wrote November Rain and was working with Axl and Guns N' Roses. Like, man, and we're on the same vibe. He's real dark. He's satanic and all this stuff, kind of, dark imagery. I said, all right, I'm going to write with Del. I went down and wrote, and we wrote really quick, writing songs like The Ritual and all that. He was dark, and we worked together really well. So that was the start of it. And then from there on, he worked on every record after that with me.
You mentioned Steve. Steve did lyrics for Witch Cunt. I mean, Witch Cunt. Did the lyrics for Witch Hunt with you. You can change it to that title too.
Yeah.
Did the lyrics for a Witch Hunt with you.
Yeah, it was Zet, because Zet wrote the original Legacy stuff. So, of course, in Testament, he understands Eric and Alex and working with them. So I always thought it was good that, he r- going at a place where he understands. So we always worked well together, and he works like me and Dell. When we sit down, we write a song. It's not no half song, or it's going to be done when we start a song. We're going to finish it. So again, and Zet understands the band. He knows what I'm doing. I come up with the hook or the story or the melody, and we work off of it. So, and Zet wrote 3 songs on this record, but only one made it. I rewrote them.
And the title of the record, Parabellum, which references war, right? And the cover art goes with that too, obviously, which is pretty much, a perfect thing for today, as we all know, as crazy as everything is out there, man. And it had a different title at first, right? The album that you guys were
Well,
kind of a working title you guys were going to go with at first.
well, it was going to be called Infanticide AI because that was the first song we wrote and first lyrics I wrote with Dell. And so Eric leaned towards that as a title. Um, but in the end, after we wrote Parabellum, Prepare for War, we were like, well, this cover here, as you see, this makes more sense. The nuclear bomb and the angel and the missiles was more appropriate than infanticide. This art, because they were working on the art already. And it just made more sense. It was more current, even though infanticide AI is relevant and current. I didn't want to open up that door for people to criticize and maybe think we were using AI with our shit. So we kind of ended that and went with Parabellum. It made more sense.
And Chuck, these days, obviously, we always mention this on the show, me and Ed, with it. It's so hard. Back in the day, you bought whatever seasons or any record from back when we were growing up, and you listen to that record over and over and over again. And these days, there's like 20 albums out every week maybe and stuff. How with the cycle now, how hard is it for bands, you think? Like, we always say, what, Ed, like about a 2 or 3 week period we hear about an album. Like, you can't, it gets drilled at you and then it's gone, they moved on to the next. Do you see that too? Like, from your side?
Well, yeah, I mean, there's there's a lot of bands. These labels have a lot of bands, so there's a big schedule that they got to go by, and there's only so much people that could arrange interviews and all that for you. So, that once your promotion and marketing is done, they're on to the next band and the next release. So sometimes, like us, we'll have to go hire an outside publicist or something to keep it going, because they're already moving on to their next act and priority.
Yeah, it's definitely, and one song I do want to mention, Ed was talking to you about, I think before we signed on. Ed's been preaching this album constantly on the show, and it was written by Dell, the song Room 117, and it actually was about his mother.
Well, he didn't write it. I wrote it. Dell's mom was in the hospital, and she was in room 117. And Dell spent a lot of time, and he was writing, saying, "Man, I'm here." Spent a lot of time here, and so one day he wrote me and said, "Hey, man, wrote a poem or a bunch of words, what I was feeling. I've been here so long. Take it if you can use it, use all of it, use part of it. Don't use it at all, but here, see what you can make out of it." And I had that song, and I didn't have anything for that one yet. So when he gave me the Room 117, I started reading some of the lines, and it fit to the timing of that song. It was really melodic and it fit in there. I'm like, whoa, this is going to work. So then I took his poem and kind of crafted it into me using it for a verse, and then me working the chorus part out myself, and then putting it all together. But it was really, tribute to Adele's mom, in Room 117. Um, I kind of turned it around as, once you enter Room 117, you may not leave. So you don't want to be in Room 117.
We talked about at the beginning of the show, you guys are going to be touring coming up here. You guys got a bunch of stuff going up, and your set list. Have you guys kind of figured that out yet? Is there going to be a lot of stuff from Parabellum, or are you guys going to stick to you guys going to do some of the recent stuff? Or are you guys going to go back into the old records? You guys have a game plan for this one?
Yeah, I mean, it can only do so much. I think we have a 14 song set on this, so it's going to be tough to put one together. We always play Into the Pit. We might pull out the New Order on this one. So that leaves us, I want to play 4 songs off Parabellum. So shit, there's 6 songs out of 14 already. So now I got to, 8 more to choose from. That's going to be tough. So I think we've been playing a lot of the Practice stuff last year, and we did the Legacy New Order earlier in the year before. So maybe I want to lean towards more of the last records, we've done since The Gathering on. So it might consist of a little more current stuff.
Did I see you guys already have 4 to 6 songs written for the next record, or at least parts of songs written?
At least 6 to 8, not written,
6
but
to 8.
started. So Chris and Eric had 2 remaining out of the writing session, and so Chris, after the new year, came out and sat with Eric, jammed with him for a few weeks, and they said they came up with 6 more tracks, hopefully. So hopefully we got about 6 to 8 starting points of songs.
Man, and again, Chuck, we talked about a lot of your history, and you have so much history that we couldn't cover it all. We had to kind of pick and choose what we were going to discuss, on here because, it's there's just so many different angles to Testament, and there's just so many different things that you could speak about with you. But first of all, man, I have to tell you, we totally appreciate you giving us this time that you gave us because, you have a busy schedule and, it means a lot to me and Ed, right, Ed? I mean, we both said this before you came on. We appreciate it more than than you realize probably.
Well, right on. That's probably going to be the longest show on the planet there. That's what, a 2.5-hour show.
So it's good. Exactly. So we know, man, right, Ed? We said this. We're like, dude, I can't believe Chuck Billy is going to give us this time. But
yeah, when he told me that, I was like, bucket list stuff.
See you guys out on this tour somewhere.
But Ed's going to be at the show. I think the St. Pete show at Janice Landing.
Sweet.
Yep.
Right on, man.
Yep,
come say hey, have a beer. Maybe have a share. I think that's where they sell the bologna sandwiches out there in the next door somewhere.
Yep.
Yeah, that's that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Janice Landing's a cool venue.
It
man.
is.
It sounds great. So it's every band I've ever seen there. You talk about the sound bouncing off the wall, but it really doesn't do it there. It sounds great.
Yeah. Any outdoor venue.
When I saw you guys, I thought it was dark. It was Annihilator.
Yeah.
When I saw you guys on that tour back on the Practice What You Preach, it was Annihilator.
Yep.
And that was great because Alice in Hell was such a great record too. So I was like, that was fucking awesome.
Yeah, it was good days.
Yeah.
Yep, man.
And Chuck, our last question for you, man, is, dude, how do you want to be remembered at the end of the day, man?
I'd got to say, that I'm a real guy. I'm down to earth, real. I mean, I don't, I guess that's the only thing I can say is just, I treat people, I get, people that respect me, I give them that same treatment back. I like to treat people the way I get treated, and it goes both ways.
Well, man, we got mad respect for you, Chuck, and we appreciate you giving us this time. And we're going to end this, we're going to say goodbye to you here in a minute, me and Ed, but for everybody else, we're going to play Witch Hunt. Well, anything you could tell us about this track before we play it?
Well, that's the one I wrote with Zet, and I think you can tell the songs when I write with Zet. Zet seems to have that really rapid fire vocals, a lot of words. So that's the one. There's a lot of words in that one.
Yeah, definitely, man. And Chuck, anybody who wants to find anything Testament, where would you send them?
Over to testamentlegions.com. Tickets, music, video, whatever. Everything's all Testament's there.
There you go. And Ed, anything else you want to say to Chuck on the way out?
Nope. Besides, thank you for doing this, man.
Right
it was
on,
a bucket
Ed.
list for me.
Hopefully we'll see you over at Janice, man.
Absolutely.
Cool. Right on, man.
This is Testament with Witch Hunt off the Parabellum record that came out October 10th, 2025. And we'll be back on the Tampa Morgue with me and Ed after this track. And that was Testament with Witch Hunt off Parabellum. And a big thanks to Chuck Billy for giving us a few hours tonight, man. I did not expect that. Great guest. Ed, episode 128 in the books, man, and one you're going to remember.
Yes, I was thoroughly pleased with the whole interview. Again, what I said earlier was 100%. He's just a killer dude. I mean, he's just so down to earth, man. Considering, like, in my opinion, Testament should have been included in the big four. I know people love Exodus, and I get it, and people love, Anthrax or whatever. But if you want to talk about like longevity and killer music, Testament's always been a band that for album after album after album, they put out killer music. So, yeah, my opinion, I always thought Testament was up in the upper echelon of the thrash bands from, California and all that.
And for him to come on here and just be a down to earth dude, we always appreciate that on here, man, because you never know what you're going to get. We've been fortunate, we've had some great interviews on here. We've never had a problem, but it's nice, isn't it, man, to deal with someone like that and see no ego.
Yes, and that's exactly what it just made for such a smooth, it went by so fast. So that's what sucks is, it was it was over before it seemed like it started. So
And
yeah,
there was so much shit we could ask him, but dude, you don't want to take 2 hours, man. That's a hell of a window for him to give us, and a lot of stuff that, the guy has years and years of history. And,
yes.
but yeah, we hope that we asked the stuff that you guys want to hear that listen, but there's a lot of shit that we could have covered, but you kind of got to choose and pick your battles, right?
We appreciate him giving us that time because
And he gave us extra time. Chuck was great. I mean, like I
yeah,
said,
he's he's
you know,
he's he's a huge dude and he doesn't act like it. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like
literally.
so,
Was he like
yeah,
6'4" or some shit like that? I
yeah,
mean,
both figuratively and I mean, he's an icon and he doesn't have to do that and he still does it and he enjoys it. You could tell by the way he tells the stories
yeah.
and answers to questions that he still enjoys being a part of music.
Well,
Some people
definitely,
go through the
man.
motions. I don't see that. I didn't catch
No.
that vibe from him at all. So
No,
that
just a
was
great
awesome.
guy. Nasty Ronnie coming on the beginning of the show. We appreciate that. We
Another
always,
icon,
another
another
icon.
icon. And it's
Yes.
crazy because we were standing right next to him a week ago or a
Yeah,
week and a
hanging
half
out with
ago.
him, just bullshitting. It was great, man.
Yeah, yeah.
It
And
was
he's
incredible.
another guy. Just you could talk to him and he's not going to act like an asshole. So
No.
it's awesome.
Yeah, man, it was a great episode 128, and of course, we'll be back next week. I mean, I'm telling everybody right now, today was a lot. We booked probably 6 bands for the show. I'm not gonna give out any names. We already mentioned Luctus earlier, and we mentioned Melting Rot, so those we can mention, but if you pay attention to the social media page this week, you're gonna see a lot more names going up there. Just trying to get all the times and dates lined up. We're trying to get a bunch of stuff done before Ed goes on tour with Monstrosity. So yeah, just fucking busy around here, but in all the good ways. Glad to be back in my home studio. Everybody who listened knows I was dying for the last 2 weeks for my trip to the States, and I got my voice back finally. And Ed, I say, as I always say, let's get the hell out of here, man. So where can they find us?
You can find us on Spotify, Apple, I mean, Amazon podcast, anywhere there's a fucking podcast, YouTube, no video, the Tampa Morgue at gmail.com for all correspondence. Um, Instagram is the place to find us for all your, you know, all the updates and info because, that's the one thing that seems to pop off a lot. And yeah, I mean, we're accessible. And if you want shirts, hit us up because we have them. Because when they're gone, I can tell you this right now. I don't know unless Tony comes back to the States, we're not going to be, we're not going to be
Printing until
making
next
them.
year, probably,
Yeah,
unless we figure
because,
out something, but
it's just too much to ship them to Europe. I
I
can't do
had
that.
50
So
something shirts in my suitcases and my guitar case heading over here. That's pretty much what I bought back is a shitload of Tampa Morgue shirts. So, but again, we have no smalls left. Mediums are done. It's pretty much large, extra large. I think Ed's got maybe some double X's over there.
one double X, one 3X. That's it.
Yeah.
So yeah,
So,
we're big
and
boy
that's
sizes are out.
yeah, yeah. So I mean, Ed's got the triple X over in the States, but hit us up. Like I said, we ship States and Europe. And Ed, I say let's bolt.
Let's do it.
Yeah, there you go. Everybody,
night.
appreciate it. Everyone for listening. Again, Chuck Billy. Cannot thank him enough for giving us so much time. Nasty Ronnie, great to see him again and catch up with him. And yeah, anybody who wants to get a hold of Ronnie, get a hold of us. We'll get you a hold of Ronnie to deal with Cranked Up Records, Metal Division, and all that good stuff. So, Ed, I'll see you next week.
Hell yeah, brother.
Everybody have a good one, and thank you for listening to the Tampa Morgue. Peace.
See ya.
This is King Fally from Deceased, and you just listened to another episode of the Tampa Morgue. Tune in next week and stay fucking dead.